This meeting is now called to order. Melanie, would you please call the roll?
Chair Wenderman.
Here.
Vice Chair Moyer.
Here.
Director Alba.
Here.
And Director Henneberry.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Fantastic. Would you please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? Being over there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So, welcome. Let me read off the required statements here that we're expected to read these days, right, Stephen? Before we do these public meetings, we have to say certain things. Oops, and we have to stop that. So that wasn't part of what we're supposed to say. So welcome to San Francisco Bay Ferry's Board of Directors meeting. This monthly meeting is being conducted in person and by video conference. It's being recorded to reduce background noise. All video conference participants will be joining the meeting in listen-only mode and muted during the discussion. San Francisco Bay Ferry welcomes comments from the public. A public comment period will be set aside after each discussion period and will be accepted in person and by video conference. Video conference participants wishing to speak are requested to email your name and item number you'd like to comment on to boardofdirectors@sfbayferry.com. And if you're unable to send an email, you will be given an opportunity to speak on the item after those who have signed up. And outside of the legal requirements, I'm reminded that if you have your cell phone, please turn the ringer off because it's embarrassing when it's not off, especially when you're trying to chair the meeting. So I'll just add that. So I don't have a long report today. It was a pleasure reading the statistics on ridership that will go forward. I took the ferry over today to this meeting. It's a really great ride, great staff, a fair amount of people on for middle of the day, and it's a lot of smooth sailing out on great San Francisco Bay. So I just want to thank the staff of our organization for the great job that you do. We have a lot of important work ahead. I think we have a pretty zesty agenda here today, and we're going to hear about the capital program in a little while, which I'm interested because that's such a big part of what we're doing is building this new system. It's not typical for an agency like this to be spending this much of its energy and resources on actually building a system, but that's what we're going to be doing, and we'll be hearing about that. And I want to thank all of the workers of SF Bay Ferry and the Blue and Gold fleet who operate it, who do such a consistently terrific job, and just in advance of just startling to see the performance numbers that we receive. And I was with Governor Newsom at an event a few days ago, and I thought before I saw him, because I was going to see him, I'd write him a note and just kind of give him an update on what's transpired and how we're doing, and so I did, and it was a very complimentary note about all of you, and then got to talk to him about it as well a little bit. He said it was kind of a long note, and I said, well, yeah, there's a lot to say. So, but he's pleased with the progress that we made and the progress we will make. So again, I want to thank all of you for your diligence and your commitment to water transit and transportation in general here in the Bay Area. We're certainly at a time when there's going to be some big questions put before the public about the future of transit, and it's going to affect us all deeply, including this agency. So with that, I shall turn it over to Vice Chair Moyer for her comments, and on with the show.
Great. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for those of you that have come in person, and thanks to all of you that are online with us as well. I actually have a few things that I want to report on, especially since we skipped a meeting last month. I am so honored because I had the privilege of traveling in January with Tim Hanners, Jeff Powell, and Alexis Masui up to Whidbey Island, to Nickel Brothers Boatyard, to lay eyes on one of our EV-powered vessels that's being built, one of the largest, the 400 passenger ones, and get to know a little bit about the shipyard and attend what is known as a keeling ceremony. And for those of you that don't know that term, it signifies the start of construction of a vessel and the laying of the hull. You know, what's interesting about doing something like that as a board member is these items come before us at the board, and all the due diligence is rightfully and carefully done by our staff. And so we don't get to know some of the people involved, and we don't get to know some of the finer details. But it turns out that we as an agency and our predecessor agency have been partners with Nickel Brothers for 40 years, which is pretty stunning. And the first vessel that we acquired from Nickel Brothers is still sailing the bay today, which is also a testament to the incredible work that's been done on our behalf and on behalf of the communities that we serve. This family of workers at Nickel Brothers are really dedicated. Most of them, you know, live on the island and are part of the community and have worked their entire careers or will work their entire careers at this boatyard. Many of them have come up through an apprenticeship program, and it was just really gratifying to see, not to mention that the ship itself is super exciting and some of the other work that they've done. And so I felt just extraordinarily lucky that my fellow chair was unavailable, and I got to be the second on the rotary phone. At least I hope that's how it worked. Wasn't maybe lower on the list, but it reminded me again how important it is to be able to build boats in the United States. I'm partial to having them built here in the Bay, but as long as they can be built on the West Coast or in the United States in general, it's such an important business to have. It reminds me how skilled it is. They actually put a welding gun and a mask, which was completely dark, on me and had me weld a little bit. And I don't know why anybody would take that risk, but they did. It was super fun. No, I couldn't see what I was doing, but they guided me carefully, which tells you how skilled they are. And then I got to see kind of how they did their work, and the safety that's involved in the cleanliness of the yard and some of the other work that they were doing. And so I just want to say again what an incredible business this is, and how careful and intense it is on behalf of all the passengers to be able to carry these passengers for decades and decades, and then be at the front end of this business working on an EV vessel, first of its kind for the United States, is pretty fascinating. So congratulations to everyone. I just want to call out a few people. First and foremost, to the San Francisco Bay Ferry staff. Thank you for your vision and making sure that this happens. And to Martin Robbins, who's our sort of owner's rep, for his hard work. But of course to Nickel Brothers, boat builders, Incat Brother, Elliott Bay Design Group, Watzilla, Aurora Marine Designs. It's an incredible team at work, and everybody deserves to stay focused, but also deserves to take pride in the work that they're doing. So the other thing I wanted to mention is I saw, I think it was in yesterday's Examiner, that one of our consultants, McKenzie Communications principal, Janice McKenzie, was profiled as a woman of inspiration. And I've worked with her in various different roles over my career, but I still learned a lot reading about her yesterday. And I was reading an article that was written by somebody, I don't know who she is, named Ali Wonderman. Do you know who that is? It was a really lovely article. And so congratulations to Janice on a well-deserved recognition. And once again, it goes to show that we as an organization, again, the staff, are picking excellent partners. So congratulations to Janice. And I think, did I cover everything I wanted to? I think that's it. So thank you. Back to you.
Thanks. Yes, that's my younger daughter, who's a good writer and loves to write about San Francisco stuff. And I hired Janice McKenzie back in, I think it was 1990, when I was general manager of Golden Gate Disposal here in San Francisco, to do work up a good campaign behind the great work we were doing in recycling and waste collection. Some of the new things we were doing in San Francisco. At the time, the company was called NorCal, but now it's called Recology. but worked very, I've known her for a long time, and she's amazing, and we've been the beneficiary of her and her company's work for a long time. And it's, I think part of the success of the organization has been, the work that's been done to sort of generate the public enthusiasm, getting the story in front of the public, and make us all we can be. And I think it reverberates within the organization as well. I laid the keel on the 150 passenger boat up in Bellingham, Washington. So I guess you took the jaws that I think we need a bigger boat line, which is a good line, one of the most famous lines in all movies. But I'm glad that you got to do that. And I too got to use the welding gun, but Seamus did a much better job on the weld than I did. So I hope you did a better job than I did, because you wouldn't want that weld to have anything to do with anything that would actually hold the vessel together. And normally I make comments in my opening speech here about the importance of bringing shipbuilding back to the Bay Area, but I'm going to save my comments to a later item on the agenda when we talk about funding for the Working Waterfront Coalition. So I'm going to hold my thunder till a little bit later in the agenda on that. But I'm glad you got to go and get the opportunity to do that, because it really is exciting, both to see the future vessel in its earliest stage, but also to see the workers and what a great opportunity life has given them to have a career, a start to finish career like that. Is phenomenal, and so I won't say anything more about that until later. So thank you, Director Alba, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I don't have any updates, but I'm just so grateful to all of you for going to the places and seeing what's happening in real time, and just looking forward to seeing these ferries here one day.
Director Phil.
Well, we have a pretty sizable agenda, so I'll be brief. I had a great ride over on the Pisces, 1205 run. We had a great IBU and MM&P crew. It was awesome, beautiful day. And every time I step on a ferry, I'm just so proud to be associated with this agency. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We join you in your pride. So let me turn it over to Director Murphy and staff for a number of reports that we'll have today on key issues and items, and some little change of the guard and a little stuff we got coming.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And thank you both for making the trip up there to those shipyards to celebrate the construction of these ferries. There's going to be many opportunities to celebrate this program moving forward. We'll hear some more detail about the program with the quarterly capital update from Mr. Griggs later on in the agenda. I just want to assure everybody, though, that whether it's amateur welders or professional welders, these ferries are safe. There's a whole group of trained professionals at the shipyard, and even though the welds might not be the most proud, we're not the most proud of the work that we did on those welds, they will make sure that these vessels are safe. I want to first bring Catherine Sue up from our legal team to give us an update on the Connect Bay Area revenue measure. This is a measure that has some really clear impacts, obviously, on our finances and the corresponding service that we're able to provide. It can always be a challenge determining how we can communicate about issues like this, and so we have Catherine here to give us the do's and the don'ts as a political campaign is about to commence that has an impact on our services.
Thank you. So included in your packet is a set of guidelines that we prepared regarding political activities related to the Connect Bay Area measure. As you know, this measure is a voter initiative to impose a sales tax on various counties in the region. Okay, it's a little ergonomically. Thank you. So this sales tax is to fund public transit in the region. It is a voter initiative that will be brought to the voters at the November 3rd election. And these guidelines explore a general rule for using public resources for political activities. So the guidelines go into much greater detail, but I'm just going to provide kind of the high-level overview for you today. So the general rule has two parts. The first part is that you can't use agency resources to campaign or advocate for or against a ballot measure. So this means in this context that SF Bay Ferry resources cannot be used to campaign for or against the Bay Area, the Connect Bay Area measure. SF Bay Ferry resources includes obviously funds. It includes the agency's assets such as ferries, offices, office equipment and supplies. It includes staff time, and it includes all the different kinds of communication channels that the agency has. So your official SF Bay Ferry email addresses and the SF Bay Ferry website and social media platforms. So none of those resources may be used to advocate for or against the measure. However, the other part of this rule is that you may use those resources to prepare educational or informational materials about the measure, so long as they are balanced and neutral in terms of their timing, tenor, and tone. And that kind of test is what's fleshed out a little bit more in these guidelines. But essentially, we look to the format, the timing, the content, of course, of those types of materials to ensure that they don't cross the line into advocacy. But SF Bay Ferry resources can be used to prepare informational or educational content, such as a fact sheet that says what the agency would use the revenue for, should it be approved. So this restriction is in effect now because the Connect Bay Area committee pursuing this initiative has already started collecting signatures in the various counties, and this restriction will be in effect until the election takes place. It applies to SF Bay Ferry directors and staff in using SF Bay Ferry resources. It does not apply to directors and staff when they're using their own personal resources in their own personal capacity off the WETA clock. So that's kind of the general overview of this restriction. And if you have any questions or concerns about these guidelines, we know that they can be very nuanced and fact specific. So Steve and I are always a resource for you should you have any questions.
Quick question. So in terms of the measure, once it qualifies, I don't know if it's qualified for the ballot yet, but at a certain point, are we allowed to take a position on it or not?
So the board may take a position on the measure. There's kind of rules around how you do that. I think it makes sense to probably wait until it qualifies because then you know that it's actually going to be on the ballot.
Yeah.
And the way that would work is at an open board meeting, you would consider taking a formal position on the measure, and that would be basically a policy expression of what the agency's position is on the measure. It's not a license to then use agency resources to advocate for or against, in line with that position. So we would be really mindful of that restriction in preparing the materials around that and make sure that that discussion is open to the public and you hear all sides of that. But yes, the board could choose to adopt a position.
So just in foreshadowing this, because I want to make sure that we get it right, and thank you for your guidance on this. So when that would come up, it would be agendized.
Correct.
Right? It would be on the agenda, and then we would have, a presentation maybe from the campaign, or maybe Seamus or someone would present the measure to us, and then we would have sort of a normal debate about it, right? And we take public, input, and people would get to comment. And I would guess normally on our agendized items, the board members feel pretty free to weigh in on what their thoughts are, ask questions. Is that still, would that be getting out of line for a given board member to say, I think this is really important for us, or something like that, or not, whatever it would be? Board members can weigh in during that process, given their thoughts?
During that process, what you've described is permissible.
Yeah.
And we would still, like I said, we want to be careful in how we prepare the materials for that meeting and like the actual resolution that you adopt. But what you described sounds permissible.
And then the minutes would reflect what was stated the way they typically do?
Yeah, I think it would be captured in the minutes, but then we'd probably also have a resolution that would reflect the position that you ultimately took.
Okay, thanks. Questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Of expansion projects that are in the planning stage. We continue to make progress on these and want to report to the board that progress when the time is right. And so to report on the Berkeley project, Chad Mason is here. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you. And thank you, Chair Wonderman, Board of Directors, Chad Mason, Capital Planning Manager. I'm here to give a quick update on the Berkeley Pier Ferry project. The purpose of this project is to revitalize the Berkeley Pier with a dual-use public pier that supports recreation and zero-emission public ferry service. This effort builds on the 2022 ferry service business plan and the 2023 ferry facility feasibility study. In 2024, WETA and the city approved an MOU for this phase, including design, environmental clearance, and permitting. Since then, San Francisco Bay Ferry staff has been closely coordinating with City of Berkeley staff on this effort to advance the design, project approvals, and environmental review. Here's an overview of the most recent milestones for the project. November 2025 went before the BCDC Design Review Board. In December, the 60% design was complete. The 90% design is anticipated for this summer. In January, the project was presented to the Berkeley Parks, Recreation, Waterfront Commission, the Transportation and Infrastructure Commission, as well as the Planning Commission. In February, it was presented before the BCDC Engineering Criteria Review Board and the City of Berkeley Zoning Adjustment Board. This past Friday, February 27th, the draft environmental impact report was released to the public. The public review period for that extends from February 27th to April 13th. And we anticipate that the final EIR and city council actions will be completed in the summer of this year. So we're going to continue to closely coordinate with the staff throughout the draft environmental review process and the final EIR process, as well as advancing the design and advancing the permitting and grant applications and many other actions to advance the project. That concludes my update.
Thanks. Appreciate it. It's an important project, the missing tooth in the system, I'd say. Started a long time ago. Is the city still way behind the project the way it was when Mayor Arreguín was there and came to us and lobbied us to support this?
Yeah, I believe they are. We're going. The city team is taking it before a lot of the city boards and commissions, and those officials are demonstrating a lot of support for the project and trying to expedite it and get it done as fast as possible with all of the lengthy approval process that we have before us.
And as far as funding goes, we haven't reached that stage yet, or do we have thoughts about where the funding would come from?
We're getting there. The phase that we're in now is funded with a variety of sources, but we have an estimate for what the project cost would be with some variables to adjust it depending on what the funding conditions are. And we have a regular meeting now, really getting the approach and the plan for how we are going to pursue grant funds, because there are funds that our agency is eligible for, and then there's funds that the city is better suited to go after. So we're getting our team together and getting a plan to start pursuing some of those grant opportunities.
Thank you. Question?
Thanks for the presentation, Chad. As I recall, one of the conundrums, for lack of a better word, related to the ingress and egress to the terminal, and so I know through the EIR process that has to at least be acknowledged and mitigated. But has any solution been presented? Has arisen, I guess?
We're getting there. The environmental process is clearing a larger footprint that allows a greater range of vessel drafts, but we'll have to build two or three new vessels for this, which as with the vessels that are under construction now, and it's likely that a new vessel will be designed for this service or could be designed for this service that will potentially reduce that effect. But I think we'll have a better idea once we get further along in the current vessel projects that we have and looking at opportunities to shrink that footprint for the channel to get in and the turning basin immediately adjacent to the terminal, and try to reduce all of that as much as possible.
That'd be ideal. And what about on the land side?
As far as what? The project does include quite a bit of public access improvements down University Avenue and a whole new parking plan and parking arrangements for the ferry terminals. That's one of the stakeholder concerns, is loss of parking in the area for public access and recreational opportunities in the marina. And the city is working as closely as they can with their stakeholders to develop a plan for that, as well as having a plan for the new ferry riders.
Terrific. So on the schedule that you just mentioned, when would this come back to us for an update on what the preferred scenario looks like?
I think later this year, after the environmental review process is completed, it's probably due for an update, and as the design advances prior to moving into the permitting phase and finishing the design.
Okay, so would that be synonymous with us also doing a review on the glide path to an approval?
I believe, yes. We were trying to bring the city team in prior to release of the draft EIR to give a more comprehensive update on the project. But because we didn't have a February meeting, we decided to delay that until after the environmental review process is done. We're kind of in a holding period with the city doing any more public presentations until they get through that process.
Okay, okay. I look forward to seeing it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A question, if we were building a ballpark on the pier, then we know the state law would enable like a 270-day shot clock on CEQA process, but we're not building a ballpark, we're building a ferry terminal and a pier. So I don't know that there's a particular law right now that covers that, although maybe there is and I'm not aware of it. So could you just comment on, what's ahead once the report is issued and we go through, the public comment period and all of that? Like, how long can this drag on for before we see, the beginning, assuming we have the funding, the beginning of construction?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think the environmental review process, at best, we're looking at this summer, but the Berkeley community and the stakeholders there are very, very engaged. We anticipate a lot of comments and statements on the draft EIR. So getting through that process is the first step. And like I said, later this year. And then really we need to get the funding plan together in this next phase over the next 6 months to a year and really start identifying the grant opportunities to go for. And at best targeting 2028, 2029, I think is what the current projection is for the city. But a lot of funding needs to come into place for that to happen.
Thanks. Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chad. Next, I want to give the board an update on our March 2026 schedule change. We're always looking for opportunities to optimize our schedule. It's one of the most direct things we can do to impact customer experience and improve customer experience. And Tom Hall and his team have always given a lot of thought to ways to do that with an eye towards increasing ridership. So Tom's going to let us know about the schedule change that is most recent.
Great, thank you. Chair Wonderman, Vice Chair Moyer, directors, good to see you all. Tom Hall, Director of Operations and Customer Experience, to talk about the March schedule changes. There are 5 categories of changes outlined in the ED report. I'm going to focus on 2 of those that'll have the biggest impacts and the biggest opportunities for current and potential riders. The first one is really a result of our South San Francisco service study that we collaborated with internal teams, the planning team here at SF Bay Ferry and government affairs, obviously, and then the employers of Oyster Point and other stakeholders, both in Oyster Point and in the East Bay in the transportation community. That service study, there's an update in the executive director's report as well on that. The fruit of that at this point really is the schedule change. So we were planning to do a little over a year of this optimized schedule based on feedback that we received from existing commuters and potential commuters on that service. We know we need better performance on that service to ensure its long-term sustainability. We think this schedule is a good attempt in that direction, and we'll learn a lot from this. We're essentially just moving the morning commute later, which was a big piece of feedback that we heard. The earlier schedule was a holdover from pre-2020. The biggest company down there, Genentech, headquarters are in Europe. And so a lot of folks needed to get to the facility early to take early calls with their friends in Switzerland. We've learned through the collaborative process with Genentech and the other major employers down in Oyster Point that those are not really happening at the office anymore. People are taking those from home in a hybrid environment and then coming into the office after they're over. So we think this will be fruitful. We heard from a lot of potential commuters who drive because they can't get to the last ferry of the morning, which currently leaves at 8:20 a.m. They can't get to it after dropping kids off at school, so they have to drive in. Now our last departure will be 9 a.m., 9:05 a.m. actually. So they'll have that opportunity to take the ferry on a more consistent basis. So we're excited for that. That takes effect Monday along with all of the other changes. The other one I wanted to highlight is similarly came out of discussions with a major employer. We've talked to our friends at UCSF forever. They're a contributor to the Mission Bay Ferry Landing Project, the only private contributor to that project, which we're super grateful for. And we're continuing to find ways to enhance ridership from UCSF staff, both healthcare workers, including and the office staff, the administrative staff, and patients to get over to their facilities all over San Francisco, especially in Mission Bay, as we prepare for the opening of that service in a couple of years. And so this was an opportunity where we know that we have a number of healthcare workers that ride the 5:30 a.m. Vallejo trip from Napa and Solano counties. They can arrive at downtown San Francisco at 6:30 a.m. and get to one of the healthcare facilities, including UCSF Mission Bay, by 7 when most of their shifts start. We didn't have a similar trip from the East Bay in our post-2020 schedule. So we're adding that back in. We did have a trip like this prior to 2020 that just served from Alameda to downtown San Francisco. This one will serve from Oakland to downtown San Francisco, arriving at 6:20 a.m. There are UCSF shuttles standing by, ready to take people over to Mission Bay until we get that ferry operating across the waterfront. So we're really excited about this. We're working closely with UCSF to inform all of the staff who could take use of this. We hope that other folks who work in the city who arrive in the city early will also take it. We will be planning cooperative promotions with UCSF, including we'll pick a week in April and make that particular ride free for everyone, just to encourage people to get up a little early. We'll talk to our concessionaire about some deals on coffee, given how early the trip leaves, but we're excited for that opportunity as well. Happy to answer questions about either of those changes or any of the other schedule changes we're planning.
Just say, Tom, appreciate the work, and it's interesting to see what comes out of a process when we really kind of deeply engage with our customers and learn what their habits and their needs are and how that shapes up with what we're doing, and so that we're really thinking about the market when we're doing our planning and scheduling and those kind of things. So I think it's great to see. I'm hopeful that this will result in better usage, and everyone will benefit from this.
Thank you.
I'd heard that Genentech had stopped using private, or was planning to stop using private ferries, which were to some degree maybe competing with our runs. Is that true?
So Genentech did suspend their private ferry service from Berkeley to Oyster Point in December of this year. And so, yeah, that's no longer operating. That was quite a small vessel, and I think it did 2 runs in the morning, 2 runs in the evening. We do think that some of those folks have come over and now drive or get their way to the Oakland Ferry Terminal and take our service. We're hopeful that this schedule improvement will increase that number. We also heard, a big thing that happened while we were in the middle of the service study was the restriction of using your EV sticker in a carpool lane. And so we heard from a number of Oyster Point employees that was going to lead them to look at other options since they can no longer drive their electric vehicle in the carpool lane.
Yeah. I heard from some folks who were losing those stickers, and they complained to me, what could I do about that? And I went, what are you talking about? Take the ferry. That's what I can do. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I want to bring Michael Eaglin up from EV Maritime. I'll reintroduce Michael to the board. He was here a couple of years ago and talked about his planning for electric ferries that are pretty similar to what we're building now. He's about a year and a few months ahead of us, and he presented the board with that plan to construct these vessels, talked about the characteristics of these vessels and the similarities between the Auckland ferry system and the system here in the Bay Area. It's just a great opportunity for us to engage with a vessel builder and designer who has a vessel now in the water, so that we can understand some of the pitfalls, learn from those, and look forward to some of the opportunities that Auckland, thankfully, is now about to experience. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael.
Thank you, and it's push the button. There we go. Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's nice to see a few familiar faces. I was reflecting earlier on this afternoon when I arrived and caught up with Tim and had a chance to speak with a couple of you. Just how remarkable the culture is here in the relationship between the board and the staff. I think hats off to everybody for that. And it's an amazing thing to watch, and I think it really shows through in the way San Francisco Bay Ferry team kind of operate and interact with all of us. So yeah, congrats. I'm founder and CEO of EV Maritime. We're a clean tech design, engineering and consultancy and technology company specialising dedicated to the low emission transition of the inshore commercial fleet. We're one part naval architect, one part system integrator, specialising really in electric ferries. And we've got design engineering and project management staff in New Zealand, which is our home base, and in North America. What we do really is, I guess, two things. We invest in the development of standardised vessel platforms, and we assist operators and municipalities to build these in their with their local shipyards. It was very heartening, having been in the position of running a shipyard for around 10 years, to kind of hear those stories and that connection with Nichols Brothers and the grassroots kind of connections there. I think that's they'll be very heartened to hear your words from earlier on. We also invest in the development of flexible technology platforms, which we bring to custom boats. And in doing all of this, we aim to support boat builders around the world to become electric boat builders, and we help operators and city officials like yourselves to adopt electrification with confidence. We've got a few electric and hybrid ferry projects around the world. Here in the Bay Area, you've probably heard about our project with Angel Island Tiburon Ferry. In fact, that was signed in 2024 at your headquarters with the Prime Minister of New Zealand while you were launching the Sea Change, the hydrogen boat. So it was a big day for San Francisco Bay, and it was a big day for EV Maritime. So for Angel Island Tiburon Ferry, we're designing a 65-foot plug-in hybrid catamaran, which will be out for pricing with shipyards in the next month or so. You may not have heard about the product development work that we've been doing for Maris Vessels, which is another California company developing hydrofoiling ferries. On that project, we're involved in both product design coordination and electrical system integration. And we're also one of your on-call professional service providers in relation to vessel design. Elsewhere around the world, we've partnered with another naval architect and local shipyard for a large public ferry project in Australia, which is just kicking off, in which we're responsible for electrical and mechanical system integration. And we've got a few larger and smaller boats, up to some 400 passenger 30-knot aluminium ferries, and some passenger and vehicle ferries in smaller sizes in Europe and Asia and Canada, which are in the kind of early stages that hopefully will lead to contracts in due course. We have the next slide, please. It's not fair, is it? It was working just when you turned it on. Here we go. So the project which put us on the map is in my hometown of Auckland, New Zealand. That project saw the construction of the first two vessels to our EVM 200 platform and their preparation for entry into Auckland's multimodal rapid transit network. And that was the project which I spoke to you about a couple of years ago at one of these meetings. So long story short, we saw the opportunity and importance of electric ferries sometime before we found any demand for them. So we proactively designed the EVM 200 at our own cost, and then we went out and got it funded took that to our local transit authority, and from that point they really leaned into the project, especially on the charging side. And together I think we've made a terrific team, and we've achieved something really remarkable, and that's really what I want to speak to you about today. So could we have the next slide, which if you could hit play on that, I'm just going to talk over the video. So the EVM 200 is a long-range, fully electric, 78-foot catamaran platform built in carbon fibre, offering speeds of up to 30 knots lightship and over 26 knots fully loaded. As you'll see here, these boats put up very little wash, which of course is a very large part of where their efficiency comes from. We're also doing projects in aluminium, but building the EVM 200 in carbon fibre saved enough weight to offset the weight of the batteries, which helped us achieve the high speed despite the relatively long range capability and reducing energy consumption, which helps reduce recharge time. And the lighter weight and the ability to form more complex shapes without distortion further drives efficiency, which enables savings in the propulsion equipment, which helps offset the investment in the carbon construction. Now, these first two ferries have been configured to carry 200 passengers seated inside on the main deck. You can see the seating there, and 9 bikes. And an additional 30 seats are provided on the open top deck. There are 3 heads, including one large ADA accessibility head and a small kiosk for morning coffee for those really early runs that we were hearing about. These 2 ferries have been built to our design by Auckland Shipyard, McMillan and Wing, and we provided all of the propulsion and house electrical and control engineering and equipment and took responsibility for vessel commissioning, which is coming to the end now. The owner is Auckland Transport, which is a public transport authority, and the operator will be Fuller's 360. Can we run the next? This one's also a video. Here we go. So once the operator is through their crew training and operational approvals, these vessels will run on a mainland commuter service between the East Auckland suburb of Half Moon Bay and downtown Auckland. This is a 35-minute, 10-mile trip, about 8.6 nautical miles, delivered at speeds of up to 23 knots. And here you can see the vessel in the 5-knot stretch of the river approaching the Half Moon Bay ferry terminal. And shortly you'll see her showing off the sort of precision manoeuvring offered by the steerable propulsion, very much like you'll be seeing in your new boats with the pods. In this case it's water jets, but that steerable propulsion I think is a good move for both our projects. In energy terms, the speed and distance profile of this service is roughly equivalent to the Harbour Bay route here in San Francisco Bay. Excuse me, and I'm just fighting a little bit of a cold, which is seeing me a bit dry. Excuse me. So while the system integration for the vessels was by EV Maritime, in this case ABB was the integrator for the shoreside chargers. And here you can see a land-based e-house in the car park, which contains the transformers and power electronics, with DC cables running about 200 yards underground from the e-house to the wharf, slung underneath the concrete wharf, down the ramp onto the floating boarding pontoon. There's no shoreside battery energy storage and no generator backup, so this is drawing direct from grid. So these are a sort of a standardised arrangement that's been set up for Auckland with the view of rolling it out, a little bit like how you guys are at multiple terminals. Up to 3.3 megawatts each. Now, down on the floating pontoon, there's some gear here that will look familiar to those of you that have been buying electric ferries. These cables are supplying dual outlet Xenis charging tower. We're using MCS hardware, as you are, delivering up to 2.4 megawatts in 2 inlets at 800 volts and 1500 amps each. The shoreside hardware is capable of 3.3 megawatts or 2,000 amps. Right now, there is one charger operational, so our vessels will initially be delivering round trips with charging just at one end. And work is underway to install several more chargers at the downtown ferry building. And when that's up and running, the boats are expected to run all day with a 10-minute charge between each one-way trip. When needed, of course, the boats can deliver a return trip on these routes, except they'll need 20 minutes to recharge. Now, when we did this project, oh, sorry, can you just go back one? Apologies. When we did this project, MCS hardware was only just becoming available, and nobody was yet offering MCS controllers. So we used modified CCS2 controllers for charge communications, which brought more than a few challenges, especially in relation to electromagnetic noise from both the boat and the shoreside. And this was ultimately resolved, A, by a lot of filtering and noise reduction, but also by developing a communications decoupling system for which we've now got a patent pending. And we're now reliably charging at 1500 amps continuous per plug for full charge cycles. So happy outcome of a long and complex process. So here the ferry crew will manually handle the plugs for connections into the side of the vessel, somewhat separated from the passenger's point of boarding. This gives, using the manual plugs much as you are, gives flexibility for the same infrastructure to be used across a range of different vessel types, including 2 plug-in diesel hybrids, which the first of which is in the process of being delivered, which we're not involved in, and that's destined to deliver a short-range, high-frequency cross-harbour service on an all-electric basis, but it has the capability to sub in as a hybrid boat on other routes. Now, another interesting point, at the moment, the handshake, the electronic kind of comms handshake that happens between the vessel and the shore is taking a bit longer than we would like. It takes us nearly a minute from when we plug in until current is flowing. So in our view, for MCS to deliver really well for the short charge times in a rapid transit network, it's going to need further work at a kind of industry working group level to optimise the time taken. And one way of doing that, for example, is you're running isolation checks. At the moment, we run isolation checks, or the shore side runs isolation checks on the 2 poles sequentially with the same piece of equipment. 2 small pieces of equipment would allow those things to be done simultaneously, which would save about 15 seconds. 15 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but they all add up when you're waiting for the charge to come on. Anyway, getting back to the vessels, I'm pleased to say they're delivering as predicted or a little better. We're seeing high-speed operating range of close to 25 miles projected at battery end of life. The vessels are comfortably achieving speed. We've clocked them at 30.4 knots lightship and 26.4 knots with 200 passengers on board. I guess a bit of a spoiler alert that I think you've seen in the variability across your own fleet. A lot of status quo ferries are very inefficient, and as an industry we can and should do better, and that's what we've done. We've here compared the sea trial powering curves to another relatively recent Auckland ferry of the same size and weight. We're running about 34% more efficient like for like, and yet it's a conventional boat. And that efficiency is the foundation of vessel capability because it gets us off the spiral of increasing power and weight. Now, I mentioned that we've had 2 boats launched to this design. They are exactly identical except for one small difference, and the second boat has a displacement reducing hydrofoil sitting amidships spanning between the 2 hulls, and that's expected to save about another 8% in energy, improving efficiency and reducing charge time. But I'm often asked, and actually even came up in conversation earlier on this afternoon here about hydrofoils, and as a company that's involved in developing hydrofoils as well as developing floating boats, I wanted to just pop this on the screen as well. And what you're seeing here is kind of 3 different types of boats. And this is a powering curve. So this is the amount of power that it takes to do a given speed, speed being the bottom axis and power being the vertical axis. So you can see here that the kind of top line there is a monohull, typical monohull ferry of this capacity. You make significant improvements either hydrofoiling or going to a catamaran. The blue line is our ferry. It's the Auckland ferry. And you can see that actually in anything up to around about 25 knots, it's more efficient than the equivalent hydrofoiling boat. But when you want to go substantially faster than 25 knots, for example, what you do on something like the Vallejo route, then to go faster than 25 knots on a boat of this size, being 150 passenger, you would that's where foiling really comes into its own. The speed at which that crossover happens depends on the size of the boat. Smaller boats with fewer passengers, that crossover happens earlier at lower speeds, and as the boats get bigger, that crossover occurs at higher and higher speeds. As the weight of the boat gets greater, the size of the foils increases, and the faster you've got to go to get over the additional drag of those foils. All in all, this first delivery has been a great success. Of course, we've had our challenges, and I hope we can contribute these to the wider body of knowledge to help the industry to continue to build from here. I wanted to leave a couple of key takeaways for you from our experience. Number one, efficiency is everything. Chase it for all you're worth, because it really will pay dividends. Custom boats are hard. Keep trying to find standardisation as you are within fleets, but also between fleets. It will reduce risk, reduce cost, give better performance and better value. This one will probably resonate for you, but charging is hard. Start early. And my final one really is choose your suppliers wisely. We've had some difficult challenges through our project of a couple of battery suppliers failing and choosing to go out of business in the middle of the project. Changing midstream is painful and expensive. We've learned that the hard way. And while big corporates can theoretically roll with the punches a bit easier than small companies, they can also cut off their own arm when they need to, and sometimes at a moment's notice. So we are ourselves internally maybe becoming a little more sophisticated in how we assess our suppliers, and we are much more focused on choosing companies that are deeply committed to our market, preferably those like us that are 100% committed to your success with every fibre of their being, because we've been frustrated when that hasn't been the case. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Really appreciate making the trip and advising us. And I know Mr. Hanners back there is taking copious notes, so your experience can benefit us as we roll out the program, which we couldn't be more excited to do. The aforementioned daughter, Allie Wonderman, called me the other day and to ask me a question. I said, "Do you want to get together?" And she said, "No, I'm in Auckland." And I said, "Well, you need to ride the zero emission ferry." So I don't know whether she did or not. I have no idea. I haven't talked to her.
If I certainly would have recognised the name Wonderman and would have arranged for it, but I'm afraid.
Yeah, we should have, because she writes stories about stuff, so it would have been part. Who knows? You never know what story she may write. But thank you very much. I think we're all in this together. And the more we can learn from each other as we go along, the more we can, gain those efficiencies and make sure we operate. We're sort of spoiled, I think, in this agency, in that we know what we're doing, I think, pretty well. We've been doing it for a while, and the improvements that we've made in the technology have been rather iterative over time, significant, but this is going to be different. And, we have to expect some of those numbers that we see on the reliability reports probably will change a little bit. And, we want to keep them as high as we can. And I think the passengers are going to be incredibly excited to be riding the first zero-emission ferries in the country. And I know, the boat builders are going to do a great job, and we're going to do a great job on implementing them. But the more we know going into it, I think the better things will go. So thanks very much. Comments or questions? Okay, thanks very much.
Well,
go ahead.
I just want to add my gratitude for you investing the time to be here. That was really informative, and I learned a bit. It was very helpful. I have a friend in New Zealand as we speak, and I saw the item and asked her if she could make a effort to ride the ferry, but it sounds like it's not open to the public yet, which is unfortunate. So now I'll have to send her a text, say never mind. But Auckland is one of my favorite places in the world, so looking forward to that. And I think it's super important for us to have international connectivity as these new technologies take place, and kind of sweep forward. So really appreciate your being such a valiant partner in all that and leading the charge and sharing what you know as a first mover. So thank you for that. And I hope that we continue to be partners in that way. So really appreciate everything that you've just said and your ongoing support and partnership.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right.
Safe travels home.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great, thank you, Michael. A couple of quick updates on the remainder of the reports in the Executive Director's report. Next one on the Federal Legislative Report, there's been some recent action that Terrence is going to update us on with the Ferries Act, which was recently introduced. Thanks, Terrence.
Good afternoon, Chair Wonderman and board members. Terrence Candell, Government and Regulatory Affairs Specialist. Earlier this week, the bipartisan Congressional Ferry Caucus introduced the Federal Enhancement and Revitalization of Reliable Infrastructure for Essential Seaways, or Ferries Act, led by the Ferry Caucus co-chairs, Representatives Emily Randall, Nick Bekich, John Garamendi, and Nicole Maliatakis. The bill would expand several federal ferry programs established under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, strengthen funding for existing ferry grant programs, and establish a new program to support fleet modernization, vessel electrification, domestic shipyard capacity, and it also clarifies eligibility between federal programs and expands access for funding for ferry operators serving both urban and rural communities. The Ferries Act is being introduced ahead of the expiration of the bipartisan infrastructure law in September 2026 and is intended to position ferry priorities for inclusion in the next surface transportation reauthorization.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terrence. Then we'll move to the Ridership Report. Gabe Chan from our planning team will give us an update on ridership.
Good afternoon, Board of Directors. Gabriel Chan, Transportation Planner here at SF Bay Ferry. Included in your packet is the ridership report for January. And I'm happy to report that we saw just about 229,000 boardings for that month, which amounts to 106% of ridership recovery compared to the same month in 2019. Looking at our regional transit partners, BART is still hovering around 50% of their pre-pandemic number, Caltrain at about 60%. And then a sneak peek in February, we didn't have time to include it in this month's report, but also encouraging signs for the ridership there. And then if Lexi is in the room, I'd like to invite her up to talk about some of our winter promotions that have been helping bolster the ridership.
Good afternoon, directors. Lexi Matsui, Manager of Public Information and Marketing. So yeah, a lot of that ridership growth that we saw in the winter months was due to a Winter Ferry Fun campaign that, we talked to you guys back in November about. So just to remind you, the reason we embarked on this was we see our commute ridership stays pretty steady through the winter months, but we do see a small dip in ridership for recreational ridership, November through December, or through January typically. So we did a couple things. We had Merry Ferry events with Santa on board in December. We had musical acts on the ferries on Fridays in January. Those were very popular and got a lot of media attention. And we did $1 youth passes for anyone ages 5 through 17 and $20 day passes. So all in all, we looked at those 3 months at about 16% year-over-year growth. It was about 8% higher than what we projected. And just for weekends alone, we did about double of what we did previously. So it was a really successful campaign. It's launched a lot of great ideas, ways we can keep people on the boats. We're looking at trivia coming up, trying to figure out how we can get more music. Dozens of Bay Area local artists reached out to us wondering how they can play on the ferry. So we're looking for ways that we can keep it up, but I'm very happy with how that turned out.
Thank you. It's exciting.
Great. And lastly, want to hand it to Gary for our quarterly update on the capital program.
Okay, thank you. Chair Wenderman, Vice Chair Moyer, Directors, Gary Griggs, Chief Capital Program Officer. You have in your packet the quarterly report that we issue on a quarterly basis. I'd like to give you a brief summary of that, have some slides to show you as well.
Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
There we go. So this report is actually through the end of 2025, December 31, 2025. So we progressed beyond that a bit because of the financial reporting and others. We generally have a month or so delay. So my report tries to stay up to date as much as possible, so I will be reporting on things that have happened since then as well. Next slide, please.
Next slide, please. Okay.
There we go.
Thanks.
So a quick summary of what we've done in the last quarter. I was very happy to hear your comments about your trips to see the 150 passenger vessels and the 400 passenger vessels in the keel laying ceremony, which is very important and a clear indication that we are seriously in the production phase and construction well underway. We also are progressing with the Hydrus conversion project, which we've talked about as well. And in some ways, it's good that we have these two processes going in tandem, with the new vessels coming out for the 150s and 400s, but also the Hydrus that we're doing more internally. So this gives us a good opportunity to share information between those two endeavors and better inform both of them as how we're proceeding. And I can report that both of them are proceeding well. And if you were to see what's going on up in Bellingham and Whidbey Island with the 150s and 400s, since you've been there, I think you'd be very impressed to see that the framing is coming together very quickly, and they're really starting to look like the vessels that we'll be having here before too long. We're also doing some very good work on the charging floats. And as you know, we have two types of charging floats. One is the universal charging float, which we've been working on for some time. But we also have the float-mounted charging system now. And you heard from Tritium in the previous board meeting about proceeding with some equipment that they're providing. That connection with Tritium and their technology are helping us to actually effect some improvements to the universal charging float as well. Improvements in technology and also improvements in the cost that's involved in these charging floats that we're putting together. We have the universal charging float under negotiation, and we'll be hoping to sign a contract with that fairly soon. And the float-mounted charging systems will be specifically allocated to Treasure Island and Mission Bay, very applicable to those locations. We have ordered the electrical equipment for the seaplane landside project. We're continuing to work closely with SFPUC and the other utilities in terms of negotiating ferry-specific rates that will make our operation more profitable and feasible. And then a lot of work going on the land side of project design, construction, planning work related to land side electrification. And then we spend a lot of time talking about what's going on with the new and exciting electrification program. But we also don't want to forget that we are also in the capital program carrying forward a very intensive repair and replacement program to make sure that we keep the existing operation meeting those ridership and reliability numbers that you see. So I really want to acknowledge the capital program team in the way that they're keeping our current program operating. Next slide, please. I'd like to talk a little bit, and I've talked before about this. One of the big challenges we have on the land side is really the electrification in downtown San Francisco. We're continuing in intense negotiations with both PG&E and SFPUC to provide that power that we're going to need down at the terminal. Because SFPUC seemed to be delayed in having their major substation in place in time for our operation, I think, as you know, we've developed a very dedicated, specific system to our own 10 megawatt power needs that we need for the terminal charging capability. We're now seeing that SFPUC may be on a faster timeline for their own substation, a 90 megawatt substation. So we're doing some checking to see how to proceed with those two options on the table. Regardless of which way we go, we're going to need some interim temporary power. So we're pursuing that as well, because we're going to have to bridge some gaps between when we need charging capability at the terminal and when we anticipate having that service from PG and SFPUC. So we have some opportunities there to try to secure approximately 2 megawatts of power to allow us for our initial operations of our 400 megawatt vessels. Next slide, please. I've talked a lot about San Francisco, so that you understand that we're not dealing with the level of challenges on the other terminals. So I thought it'd be good for you to see the Treasure Island landside electrification, which is well along. We've ordered some of the electrical equipment, and the construction will be starting fairly soon. But you can see here it's a far simpler approach at the other terminals with a shorter run to the main utility feed. And then we don't have that long so-called extension cord that we have in downtown San Francisco running for 6 blocks through a very dense urban area. And you can anticipate the challenges that we face there. So we're very happy to report that the work at the other terminals like Treasure Island, Mission Bay, Seaplane, and elsewhere is proceeding very quickly with the energy demands that we need and the designs that are fairly straightforward. Next slide, please. As I do in every quarterly report, I give you a schedule performance report. We continue to have a schedule performance index of less than 1, meaning that we are trending behind schedule. And we're doing everything to catch up to that. I think we all understand some of the reasons that we're seeing these schedule challenges. Funding is one of the issues that continues to be a concern. And then we have technical and regulatory and procurement challenges as well. So those various factors have resulted in our schedule performance index being below 1, and we continue to try to find ways to correct that and move forward more quickly. The critical paths for Phase 1, serving Treasure Island and Mission Bay, still obviously the 150 vessels, but goes through Treasure Island. And then for the 400 passenger vessels for Phase 2, that's going to go through Seaplane. So we're going to be positioning our first universal charging float at Seaplane for charging the 400 passenger vessels. Next slide, please. I also give you a detailed cost report based on our financials. These, again, through December 31. We're showing a cost performance index of 1. We're early in the program. We'll be challenged in that regard as well as we move forward. It's always a challenge to keep the cost on track. But I also want to report on the bottom box there, and this has come up in our discussions before, and Chair Wunderman has raised this issue, that you can see that we're through December 31st, we have an annual budget of $148 million. But you'll see that through December 31st, we've expended $22 million. Now, it's always good to be under budget, and we're very happy to do that. On the other hand, that's only 15% of our annual budget over the course of 50% of the year.
It's terrific efficiency. You should be very proud.
So while we're pleased to be under budget, we're not pleased that we're that far under budget because it's 15% expended against 50% of the year. And it's the same challenges that we're facing on the schedule performance, that we're seeing funding issues that are delaying us, and also regulatory and procurement issues that also we're facing. We do expect to see some milestone payments before the end of this fiscal year that'll probably bump that up a bit, but we'll continue to try to find ways to move forward more quickly. Next slide, please. As we do every quarter, we hold a risk workshop and assess what we see as the major risks on the program and if there are any changes over the course of the quarter in those risks. We're still showing that our highest risks are really they're really on the funding level and on cost escalation. So theirs is staying in the high risk category. Fortunately, we are seeing some cooling off of inflation and other factors that we'll hope will continue to improve. The arrows there show the changes from the previous risk report, and we felt that the operating cost escalation that we are tracking and concerned about in the future has come down. And one of the reasons is that we're seeing performance from operating systems around the world that are demonstrating that the cost of efficiencies of going to battery electric or electric operation are tremendous. We just saw some results coming out of Singapore showing a 60% reduction in fuel costs in terms of efficiency, and even a greater reduction in maintenance costs. So as we see that, I think we can draw some comfort that moving forward, we're going to see some efficiencies brought into our operation of going to battery electric versus diesel. Next slide, please.
Before you go on that one, on the top line is funding uncertainty, which is clearly the highest risk item. Is there a particular piece of the capital funding that is missing at this point that we're counting on in order to move forward with a particular project?
Yeah, let James take that.
Yeah, I could take that one. We have several FTA grants that have been awarded, and most of them have been executed, and we're drawing down on those funds successfully. There are two in particular. They add up to $36 million, and one of those is for one of the floats that the board has approved an award for to JT Marine. The other is for one of the 150 passenger vessels. And so we are still working our way through the process. The FTA has decided to put those two grants into a bucket with about 80 other grants from around the country, all of which are going to fund clean energy and transportation projects. And they're reviewing those for consistency with the administration's priorities. So there are some real question marks around those, and we expect to get some conclusion on those sometime within the next month, and we've been working very hard from an advocacy standpoint and building very strong coalitions, not just from the Bay Area, but from around the country, bipartisan advocacy coalitions to support the execution of those grants. It's too early to predict which way they will go. We're working on contingency plans to make sure that the projects don't need to be de-scoped regardless of what happens with these grants, but it's also too early to say whether those contingency plans are solid at this point. So more to come on that front.
Thank you.
Okay, and then to wrap it up, just looking forward, we'll continue obviously on the production of our new vessels. We hope to complete the design for the 400 passenger Hydrous conversion, so we can look to go out for bid for that work. The work on the floats is proceeding well. We'll get under contract on the universal charging floats and get those under construction, and then also the float mounted charging system. We expect to complete the design for Treasure Island so that we can go out for construction on Treasure Island. I think, as you know, we've already purchased the electrical equipment there, the transformers and switchgear. And then also Seaplane Lagoon is moving along very quickly with Alameda, and we'll proceed to 60% on that. We're also advancing the downtown terminal, what's known as the back of meter portion, coming from the transformer switchgear down to the terminal. We'll use that regardless of what approach we take and how we secure the power from the utilities. And then we'll continue those discussions with the various utilities and other stakeholders as we move forward. So with that, I'll complete my presentation and open it up to any questions you may have.
Just one from me, real quick on the discussions with the SFPUC. So this has been ongoing for a while. What's yet to be decided?
We are having some additional discussions with them. I think we're going to have to probably elevate those discussions again because we have a deadline from PG&E as to their commitment of the 10 megawatts. And that deadline is coming up quickly, and yet we're not in a position to make that decision. So I think we're going to need some help to make sure we have the time necessary to decide how to proceed.
All right, I better bring my hammer or something, huh?
Yeah, I think we would appreciate
See if that works. All right.
Appreciate that.
Other questions, comments from the board members? Well, thank you for the comprehensive report. It's good to understand. I know there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and we appreciate the diligence of you and the team on this. Any one of these things can be very complicated, but the combination of them is really vexing at times, I know. So thank you. Appreciate your work.
Chair Wunderman, I think that sets the record for the longest executive director's report ever, but good news is we've concluded it.
Actually, the longest that ever will be. So I think, don't you think? But it was good. I think it was an opportunity to catch up on a few key things fairly early in the year. So let's move on to the consent calendar, item number 5. We have 5 items, A through E. Does any member of the board wish to see an item removed from the consent calendar?
I'm sorry, Chair Wunderman. We have a public comment for item 5, the Executive Director's Report.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Alita.
Thank you, Chair Jim Wunderman and members. Alita Dupree for the record. She and her with Team Folds. Need my clock here. Good report. Very meaningful. Lots of things in it, like a buffet, if you will. Still trying to digest it all in a good way. Very good information about the electrification program, both from our highly esteemed friend from New Zealand and also the work that we are doing here. As I am mindful about electricity, I live in an all-electric home, and I receive my electricity 100% from solar panels. In thinking about the challenges of getting energy to our facilities, it seems like it's only charging where there seemed to be resistance. And it's not just ferries, but I'm hearing about it with public transit systems that are want to put in electric bus fleets. Hear it with electric charging providers that are putting in 350 kilowatt charging units. Batteries are a part of this because it looks like these 10 megawatt draws are highly episodic. Can we flatten it somewhat? Batteries are a way to do it, but batteries do have their challenges as well. I heard about a company in San Francisco that is building induction range tops with batteries in them. So you don't have to have as big an outlet to power that with, because a lot of people can't upgrade to 240. But how do we deal with this issue of the episodic nature of high-power charging, where we have to build a very big connection that it seems like some are reluctant to do? They still should do it if we want it. And I think that the energy capacity is out there to supply it. The idea of big electrical infrastructure for transportation in big cities is not new. I consider a favorite place of mine a famous railroad station in New York City called Grand Central Terminal, which I'm sure some of you have probably gotten to see and use. 25 megawatts of electrical capacity for that building, about 2/3 of which goes to power trains. I'm sure they're using that pretty much all the time when the station is open. How do we get from here to there? I want to see this work done. I'm interested in hydrofoil boats and the catamarans and hydrofoils, it's kind of like a skirt. And the waves are kind of like folds, team folds, skirt folds, whatever. Yes. Anyway, good report. I think my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comment. Any other public comments on the executive director's report?
No further comments.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to item 6, the consent calendar. There's 5 items. I believe no one on the board wanted anything pulled, so if not, I'll take a motion on the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we call the roll, please?
And no public comments from here. So Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Alba,
Yes.
and Director Hannaberry.
Yes.
The item passes.
Consent calendar is approved. Let's move on to item 7, approve actions relative to agreement number 25049 with Marine Group Boatworks, LLC for MV Intintoli repairs and dry dock.
There we go. Director Wonderman, Vice Chair Moyer, board members, good afternoon. I'm Jeff Powell. Today I'm asking for your approval of amendment to agreement 25049 to Marine Group Boatworks in the amount of $830,217 needed to complete the dry dock work, retain U.S. Coast Guard certification, and return the Intintoli to service. This project is obviously experiencing some cost overruns as a result of these U.S. Coast Guard findings. These U.S. Coast Guard findings are not new to us. It's something every one of our vessels go through every 2 years. Some of the main objectives of these are internal and external hull integrity assessments, which basically looks for dent, broken, corroded parts and pieces of the vessel. Sea chest and valve inspections, which are all the water uptake points of the vessels, which, if they leak, they become a flooding problem, as well as underwater propulsion shaft, bearing inspections, and drive units. A lot of this needs to be out of the water to inspect. These inspections resulted in several deficiencies from the U.S. Coast Guard, who issued a notice to correct these deficiencies before they would issue a new certificate of inspection. Typically, our boats go to the yards and we have anywhere between 8 to 10 change orders, 8 to 12 change orders on average. These are pretty typical and pretty normal, and we expect them. This vessel right now has 27 change orders in place. Today, I'd like to walk through the 4 major change orders that are contributing to the majority portion of this cost overrun. With that, Melanie, can we bring up the slideshow?
Alex, item 7, please. Alex. Oh, thank you.
To the next one, please. And the next one. Next one. Here we go. Kind of looks like a rust bucket. Change order number 1028R, port engine room exhaust fan and fire damper replacement. This one comes in at $92,000. This was found by Coast Guard, and it's a ventilation fan and a fire dampener that's absolutely 100% critical to the operation and safety of the vessel, provides fresh air to the engine room, and in the event of a fire, the damper will close to seal off that space. This is replacement of this equipment is absolutely necessary, and the vessel cannot move forward without this being done. Next slide, please. So here we have 2 areas of the hull, which we call the structural inserts for the starboard jet room and adjacent engine room. Now, when I refer to a structural insert, basically what happens is this plate in this area is 6 millimeters or 0.25 inches thick. Regulations allow wastage, because it does happen to aluminum boats, up to a maximum of 25%, which is 0.063% wastage. This wastage was identified by Coast Guard on the inside of the hull in these areas, and this change order comes in at $107,000. Now, when you go to a shipyard and you talk about change orders and inserts, it's not a big deal to a shipyard. They do it every day. And what that means is basically they have to cut a hole in the hull, provide a new piece of material, and weld that new piece in. Now, a lot of the costs in these change orders are not just that welding aspect, but also what's on the other side of that hull right there. There's machinery, there's piping, there's electrical cables. All those items have to typically be removed before that repair can take place. So that's the 2 hull inserts. Next slide, please. This area is in the same area that we looked at in number 1 for the ventilation fan and the fire dampener. And again, we're looking at deck inserts because of water intrusion into this space has basically corroded this area, which is an 8 millimeter thick plate or 0.313 inches. And the maximum allowable on that, again, is 25% or 0.078% wastage, which this area had widespread wastage, which exceeded that. So that change order comes in at $141,000. And again, a lot of that cost is due to removing of insulation cable trays and other equipment that's just below these inserts as they start to do the work. Next slide, please. Our fourth change order, this is looking underneath the boat, looking up at the aft of the boat. And this is the passenger deck transom overhang, where basically the bicycles are stored on the aft of the deck. Now, beneath this structure, there's widespread deterioration identified, a little difficult to see in the picture, but all this extruded material and structural beams have wastage that exceeds the 25% allowable. Local repairs wasn't going to do it. This entire structure is going to be removed, refabricated, and replaced. So with all these together, the fact that this vessel was delivered in 1997 and has been in service for 29 years, repairs like this, being in the marine industry all my life, don't surprise me. What does surprise me is that these conditions were not found until the vessel went to dry dock. That's what we have to fix. We have audited our maintenance system to try to figure out what's going on here, and we found that the maintenance system does specifically call out for the inspections related to the first 3 change orders. The ventilation system, the hull spaces are called out, and they were checked off as good as early as November of 2025, just before the vessel went to dry dock. Further investigation, we need to find out why our reports are not aligning with the conditions we find when we take the boats to shipyard. This 4th change order, it's kind of a wild card because you would physically have to be under the vessel to see this, but with all the vessel inspections and surveys that we go through, I find it hard to believe that this exceeding 25% wasn't identified until the shipyard period. So we're definitely looking into why that happened. Although there are no specific points for this in the maintenance system, we're going to be adding this one to the maintenance system for sure. We will continue to analyze specific findings from the Intintoli and add lessons learned to the organization. And in summary, today's request allows us to complete the repairs, maintain certification, and return the vessel to reliable service. At the same time, we're strengthening our planning, risk controls, and our maintenance and inspection practices. For these reasons, we recommend approval of Agenda Item 7, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm sure there will be some questions about this. I thought when Mr. Hanners got up, he was walking out, but he actually just got up, preparing himself for the onslaught that could come. And thank you for being so forthcoming about this. I'll say I'm kind of glad today that Tony Intintoli no longer serves on the board for 2 reasons. One, he wouldn't be probably too happy, Marina, with having the vessel named after him in this condition, and secondly, and probably more so, he would hate spending the money because he was very tight-fisted and very watchful of our expenditures. So the vessel's 29 years old. I mean, could part of this just be that we're operating a vessel that's gotten to a point in its life where it's in service for too long, and we could expect to see a vessel at this age just have these kind of things happen? And is that a lesson for? I know this is this the oldest vessel that we have, or no? I don't think it's the oldest one.
This is currently the oldest vessel we have, and with all marine vessels, they're in a harsh environment, they're in a corrosive environment. The older they get, the more susceptible they are to additional maintenance to keep them in operating condition. Maintenance cost goes up. It's a lot of reason why we do replace our vessels after so many years. They just become expensive to operate, and this is no different than that.
Yeah. Because the photos that you showed, they weren't sleight of hand. It doesn't take a lot of experience to know that that's pretty serious wear and tear. So I'm just wondering if this implies something about what we do when a vessel reaches a certain age, and whether or not we want to keep kind of putting, because here we are, putting in initially $500,000, I think it was, and this is another 800,000, so it's 180% of the original estimated cost of the repair. It's a lot of money that could be going into something else. So what's the thought about that?
So this particular vessel is due to exit our service in another 2 years, I believe 2028. I believe we will be retiring this vessel.
And are there other vessels that you think would be likely to find similar conditions because of their age? I'd like to think it's because of their age and not because there's a deficiency in our maintenance program, but we can get to that.
We are definitely making sure that this doesn't happen again. We're looking at other vessels. And we've already inspected the sister vessel to this one to make sure these conditions don't exist.
Okay, I'll turn it over for now to other comments. Director Alma.
No, my questions were very similar to yours. And just when do we plan to retire this vessel so we don't have these massive budget impacts. But I think that's it. It's good to hear. Thank you.
How long will it take to make this repair?
I think the current schedule shows through the end of May, maybe early June, but we're looking at some quicker delivery times on some of, like the ventilation fans. There are a 10-week lead time on those items, so we're looking to expedite those to improve the schedule. And then that aft platform will be the next big driver of the schedule to get this boat back in service.
All right. Go ahead, Director Henningsen.
So if we're going to keep it, we have to fix it. You can't sail without Coast Guard approval. So is it worth spending this amount of money on a boat that's got 2 years left in its lifespan?
Yes. I mean, yeah, it's on our profile to operate this vessel through that retirement date.
So when did it go into dry dock, and so how long will it be out of service?
It
estimated?
went in November of 2025,
Uh-huh.
and due to these change orders, it's extended by about 3 to 4 months. I think February would have been the delivery, and then these are going to drive it to May, maybe June.
And so how's that impacting the current fleet and performance? Is it just like a backup vessel right now, or do you need it in service?
Every vessel we have, we want in service, right? I mean, because every vessel goes through maintenance periods. So every time we have a vessel out that's unplanned, we have to juggle other vessels in the fleet and their dry dock periods
Right.
to make up for it.
Okay. So, but it makes sense from an engineering perspective and operational perspective, it makes sense to spend this money in order to get it into service for another couple of years.
Absolutely. It's a relatively good boat. It provides a good service. It's pretty reliable, and it does a lot of work, hauls a lot of passengers for us.
Great. Thank you.
First and foremost, thank you for bringing this to our attention, and I'm extremely grateful to the Coast Guard for surfacing it. Do we self-perform our inspections?
They reside with our operator.
Okay, I see the operator here. I'd like to know more, but to me, it sounds like this is pretty significant safety risk, and so I didn't really hear much about that, and I apologize if I missed it. Was there a safety stand down? Have we since then inspected every single vessel?
So, great question. So at no time was safety an issue on this vessel. I mean, the ventilation fan was still working, and the 25% wastage is set by regulatory agencies, and the fact that, it's safe to operate up until that point, but upon reaching that point, exceeding that point, then you have to start making repairs. So at no time was the safety of the vessel ever jeopardized, but the conditions, all those conditions combined together warrant repairs. And it's kind of the perfect storm where all four of these major items came together at the same time.
Okay. But if we miss that, what else are we missing?
We're looking deep into our maintenance system to make sure we're missing nothing else. I mean, unfortunately, we don't know what we don't know, right?
So did we do a safety stand down or not?
So the other vessels, the other sister vessel was out of service when we found this, and we did inspections on that vessel, and it was clear of all these issues.
Okay, so 2 out of 16?
Well, these are the only 2 vessels like this. The other vessels have different configurations where the spaces are maybe more accessible, and like the way they don't have the platform in the back, or the ones that have the platforms we have inspected.
I'm going to ask my question a different way. So you can sleep at night thinking that all the other vessels are properly inspected on whatever their schedule is for whatever they're supposed to be inspected for.
Yes. Vessels, we're checking the maintenance system to make sure that the...
Well, maintenance system, if I understand correctly, is a CMMS system, a computerized system.
Correct.
I'm not persuaded, so persuade me that we have looked at the vessels, that somehow we are doing something different, because this is pretty egregious to me, and I'm just not persuaded. So checking a computerized system doesn't do anything for me.
So we're auditing our CMMS system and the processes that are taking place in performing those inspections, and we are spot checking some of those inspections ourselves to make sure that these conditions are not on other vessels.
I might be able to add some context to the Mare Island because I've had a little bit more history on these boats. But the Mare Island and Intintoli are one of the oldest vessels in our class. So as Jeff was talking about that, they are sister ships, so they're built the same way. And so the first thing Jeff did with his team is when we saw this on the Intintoli, we immediately, within a week, did an inspection on the Mare Island because that would be the most likely, that would be the vessel that would have the same similar issues. It's the same designer, same construction of the boat, built at the same time, same equipment. And so him and the team were deployed on that vessel. This included our contracted operator, Blue and Gold, to inspect for these similar issues. And so we developed a report based on that. We're also debriefing with the naval architect and the CM firm that have been involved with Marine Group on this project, and they're developing a full report that we'll be providing to Blue and Gold to work with them on what we can do to mitigate this in the future. Right now, we haven't inspected the entire fleet. We are focusing on this class because it's the class that's going to have these specific issues. There's different configurations everywhere. As it relates to the maintenance system, we're constantly auditing that, but that is just the CMMS system. We wanted to start off there to just make sure that we had the practices in place for the crew to know what to check, and that's why we started there. Since we've confirmed that that's in place, the next thing to do is to go physically inspect ourselves with the contracted operator. And so in addition to what we're doing on the Intintoli and the Mare Island, we plan on gathering those reports, meeting with the contracted operator and the engineering manager and our team and debriefing with them and doing kind of lessons learned on what we need to do to make sure this doesn't happen again. And if that's more physical inspections, that's what we'll do. If that's us getting involved to go down to the boats and doing these inspections ourselves, we'll do that. We're even considering hiring outside help, naval architect firms, to come in here and do these inspections for us as a third party. We recently did a survey on the boat, and Jeff analyzed that, and none of these issues were called out in the survey, which was a third-party survey. And so that's concerning to us also, is why we had a surveyor come out here and inspect this vessel, and none of these issues were pointed out. So we're going to dig into that too. But these recent issues were just brought to our attention 2 weeks ago.
A couple weeks.
And so we're still in the process of kind of briefing with everyone. We plan on the next couple of weeks, we plan on kind of wrapping that up and meeting with Blue and Gold. We've informed them, but having a formal meeting with them and talking about what we could do to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Okay, thank you. That was the, please go ahead.
To answer one question, the sister ship, me and another WETA employee, we have inspected that vessel ourselves personally.
Okay. So I appreciate the depth of the response that you both have given, because this is a big red flag for me, at least. And I'm accustomed in my own practice to seeing a pretty dramatic safety stand down, in which case everything you just described would have happened. And so the remaining question for me is, it sounds like getting to that endpoint where there's a meeting with everybody who's an inspector, et cetera, and doing a hot wash or whatever you want to call it, it's still weeks away, and I'm concerned about that. So I'm wondering how many more inspections are going to be taking place just as a normal course of business between now and when you have that hot wash or whatever you want to call it. Because whatever happened needs to be understood by everybody, and whatever changes are happening that practice needs to change now. So that's my outstanding question. I appreciate what you shared, Tim, and I don't have anything I would do different if I were in your shoes, just faster.
Yeah, I agree, and it's well taken, and that's what we're going to do, and we plan on moving on with that. We have another example of some other issues that we want to address with Blue and Gold as a team to make sure that we're able to solve this, and we're going to probably bring in the construction management firm also to this meeting. That they're kind of boots on the ground with the Intintoli right now. Our biggest priority was because the Mare Island is in service and in passenger service. Our number one priority was to inspect that boat, and we did that. We feel like it's in good condition right now, and so we're gonna take in and we're gonna accelerate this and move this along quickly and meet with everyone involved and do that down as recommended.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your comments on the Mare Island. I don't take those lightly. Thank you for that reassurance.
Other questions, comments? Have you seen? I've only been on the board for 10 years or 12 or something like that. I can't remember. So have we seen this kind of condition come up in an inspection? You must have been pretty surprised to see this. Is this something like this been seen before?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff spent many years in the shipyard, so I'll let him comment on this too. But nothing that I saw today, or I think any operator would be, this is not egregious, I wouldn't say, especially for a boat of this age. We've dealt with inserts on boats that are 5, 6 years old, so nothing absolutely shocking. The biggest concern that we have is we should have, and I should have, the team should have addressed this earlier before it got to the shipyard, and that's our responsibility, and that's what we need to do to get better. It shouldn't have got to this point. That the rust and that damage has been there for quite a while. It didn't happen in a day. Now it's not in a great, it's not like you walk by this every day. It's in an enclosed area, but we need to make sure we're doing a better job of getting out in front of this and not letting these things slip by.
Yeah, I thank you for saying that. And I mean, there's been a lot of reference today to the age of these vessels, these two, and I would think that the inspection protocol would reflect that, and it wouldn't be business as usual, and that worries me.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we need to look at as a team, is as in our safety checks and in our day-to-day inspections, as vessels age, we should be increasing those intervals, right? And that's something that we can improve on in the system, and not only just in a system. We talk about these computer systems, but this is actually like information that we need to make sure we pass down and educate the crew on, and so they understand, what this means and what we need to do to make sure that we keep these boats in better condition. So it starts with us, and we'll work on it with the contracted operator, but it starts with us, and we'll continue to work on it and improve.
I don't know if it's applicable, but like probably most of you, I take my car in for service every once in a while when it says I'm supposed to, usually, and I take it in and it says, the customer orders world-class service, and there's this page, and it has all these boxes that they're supposed to check stuff. And routinely, he comes back and all the boxes are checked. And I sometimes ask myself, well, did they really inspect all of these things, or did they just check the box? And the reason for just checking the box versus finding something might have to do with the culture of the organization, and whether there's a reward for finding a problem or whether there's a reward for not. And so one of the things I would just look at in the way the businesses handle of the inspections, where no matter who's doing them, is to ask ourselves, are we really encouraging the people who are doing the inspections to look deeply and not be concerned about finding something that's aberrant, because there's not a pat on the back for that. That causes someone else work, and it's not good news. And so I'll just check it off, and we always check it off, and that kind of a culture versus, and I'm not saying we have that culture, but I'm aware that kind of thing, that kind of, paradigm exists. So there's something to think about as you're looking at this.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely an aspect, potentially of it. I mean, the other thing that we want to focus too on is training. Training, for us, we'll get better, and too, for also the crews, is make sure that, if people need training or if they want more information, and why are these things important, and if we do, if we address it early on, what does that mean? And if we wait this long, this is what happens, right? And that's our responsibility to make sure that message gets down to at a staff level.
Thanks. Any other comments? Thank you. Appreciate it. Any comments, other questions on the board? Melanie, are there any folks from the public who'd like to comment on this item?
Nobody has signed up to speak.
Anyone who's here within earshot wish to say something on this item? Okay, if not, then I would suggest we get a motion.
I make a motion to approve the modification of the agreement with Marine Group Boat Works.
Motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Melanie, would you call the roll on item 7, please?
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Alba,
Yes.
and Director Henneberry.
Yes.
Item 7 passes.
Motion second and vote passes. So let's not have too many more visits like this one, I hope, in the future. Item number 8, authorize Executive Director to amend Pier 48 ferry dock lease with Port of San Francisco and enter into a landing rights agreement with Switch Maritime.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Wonderman. I'll take this one. This is a unique opportunity. We have regular landing rights agreements with private operators. Happens pretty frequently on our system. We make our landings available to those private operators to operate their service, and they pay a fee to us that covers any associated costs that we might incur. This is the first time that we've had a request for a longer-term landing rights agreement to one of our facilities. This is a facility we don't use on a regular basis. It's used for special event service only. We don't have vessels in the fleet to operate service to this neighborhood. Every vessel that we have is dedicated to our other routes. We will have vessels shortly to operate service to Mission Bay, and it can't come soon enough. But in the meantime, we have an opportunity for this service, which it will be a private charter service for employees of one of the major companies in Mission Bay to operate from Auckland, carry their employees to the Pier 48 landing at Mission Bay on a daily basis. They've already started this operation, and it is going well. The negotiation that we're bringing, the outcome of the negotiation that we're bringing to your attention today for your consideration would bring several benefits to SF Bay Ferry. Number one is it keeps the sea change in operation, which is something we want to see. We operated it for 6 months, learned a lot, saw the operation get more reliable over that time. The state has a vested interest in the continued operation of this vessel. We'd like to support it, and if it can happen through a private operated charter service, that would be something that would be a benefit to the industry broadly. Second, it would allow commute service, period, to be established to the Mission Bay neighborhood, which we think is a benefit to us. It will build support for ferry service to Mission Bay. It will show other companies what's possible with ferry service to Mission Bay. It will probably make a lot of other stakeholders in that neighborhood really want public ferry service to Mission Bay, and will be a little bit of a head start for us when we eventually are able to operate it ourselves. Lastly, we will be receiving a contribution from the operator to replace the existing landing at Pier 48, and it does need to be replaced in short order. That landing is in good shape, and it's the perfect configuration to move up to Vallejo to support the Vallejo terminal reconfiguration project. But when we move it to Vallejo, we want it to be replaced with something else at Pier 48. This is a jobs and population intense area where we think that future service might might be valuable, and we certainly will need it for special events at a bare minimum, and so their contribution to that project will enable the project to happen on time and on schedule in order to support the Vallejo project and also our continued service to Mission Bay. The agreement that we are asking you to approve would have the operating rights extend until the earlier of one of two things, either the opening of the Mission Bay Terminal, which is going to be under construction shortly, or 2030, whichever happens sooner. After either of those two things happens, we will take a look at the conditions and the circumstances and decide whether our appetite is ripe for extension of the landing rights agreement, whether we want to operate all of the service to Mission Bay ourselves, make a decision and a recommendation to you about how to move forward at that time. But in the meantime, this would allow us to experience several benefits for the San Francisco Bay Ferry service, and also allow us to partner with a private operator and establish service that will take cars off the road and allow for commute service to be established to the area.
Thanks, Seamus. A couple of questions. So is this agreement specific to this vessel, or is it, they could literally switch the vessel?
It's specific to the service, and the vessel is something that we've approved. If an alternative vessel is required for the service, then the operator needs to get our approval for that specific vessel to operate. We want to make sure that we allow for that flexibility, because if the vessel isn't available, we don't want the service to be interrupted. We want to support a reliable service through this agreement.
Okay. Well, it's nice to see the continued use of the sea change and be able to support that. I think it says a lot. And back to the length of service on this board for myself and none of my colleagues, and not you, we went through a process a while back when a private operator wanted to get landing rights it was to Harbor Bay. And there was reluctance on the part of the board to some degree, and on stakeholders to some degree, about a number of different issues. And so we went through quite a process to come up with an agreement that was acceptable. And it took a number of meetings and some time to kind of work through that. And so we worked through that. But I'm wondering if the elements that were in that agreement applied to this, because there were labor issues, there was a number of safety issues, there were things that were present in that agreement that we were obviously concerned about. We didn't want to take undue risk, and we didn't want to sacrifice relationships with our labor unions that were kind of hard-won trust issues. So things like that. How does that apply here?
Yeah, we use that existing landing rights agreement when we approve one-time landing rights throughout our system on a regular basis, and that agreement is the foundation for this agreement. So those conditions and specifications are upheld in this agreement.
Stephen?
Yeah, just also add that 4 or 5 years ago, I think, maybe time is fine. If it's flown by, it's hard to know, but the board approved what we call the landing rights policy, which sets forth the conditions under which this board is okay with landing rights, and that landing rights policy is explicitly included in this agreement, and they have to comply with all of those board-adopted preferences.
Thank you. Comments, questions?
How much is what is the capital cost for the replacement modular float? Do you have an estimate?
Yeah, we just received an update on that. It's about $5 million for the cost of the float and the installation of the float. So this would contribute.
Is that budgeted? Would that have been budgeted without this request to use this modular float, rather than being able to use it in Vallejo and then bring it back down to Pier 48?
We're piecing together the revenues to support this moving forward with this project. We need to do that by August, I believe, to have the procurement conducted on time. So this certainly helps us get there, and we have a little more work to do before we're comfortable coming to the board with a proposal for an award for that project, but I'm confident we'll get there. Every little bit helps, and this is certainly a significant piece of it.
Okay.
Others? Melanie, is there anyone who would like to make comments from the public on item 8?
Nobody has signed up to speak.
Would anyone at this point like to amend that and make a comment? If not, we'll close the testimony and take a motion on 8.
So moved.
We have motion.
Second.
Thank you very much. Melanie, would you please call the roll?
Chair Wonderman.
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer.
Yes.
Director Alba.
Yes.
And Director Hannaberry.
Yes.
The item passes.
Motion made and passed unanimously. Item 9, authorize release of proposed fiscal year 2024 through 2028 fare program amendment for public comment. Let me note for the record that the board did receive a written comment from Joanna Campbell, so that's part of the record. I would direct board members' attention to that. Item number 9.
Good afternoon. Mike Doherty, Director of Planning. We're back here a little earlier than we expected to be on the FAIR program, but hope to walk you through the logic of why we're proposing what we're proposing today, which is a request to release for public comment. Pending your authorization to do that, we would potentially bring back a final recommendation in April for your consideration. So the FY24 to FY28 FAIR program is a multi-year program, a 5-year program that the board adopted in 2023. It prescribes a set of pre-approved 3% annual fare increases across the WETA system for the duration of the program. This is really a follow-up from a change we made as part of the pandemic recovery program in July 2021. That program lowered our fares to be comparable to the other regional transit modes that operate in the corridors we do, for instance, BART, AC Transit, where that was feasible. The fare program built on the success of that change made it as part of the pandemic recovery program, and it made those fares permanent. Since then, I think the sentiment is that those fares changes have been very successful in bringing about the goals that we sought to do, namely increasing ridership. Over the course of the last calendar year, we were at 94% of our 2019 ridership. The last 3 months, we've exceeded on a monthly basis the 2019 ridership, and we think a big reason for that are the fares, in addition to the marketing that we're doing, in addition to the service restructuring we did with the pandemic recovery program. And so we feel the fare program in general has been really successful, and the adjustments we're proposing today are to really ensure we can continue that fare alignment that we've done in a way that makes those changes manageable. And namely, what we're trying to do is to make sure that going forward, we can stay competitive with the other fares charged by regional operators, so that for our passengers, pricing isn't a factor in the decision to use ferries, and then we're also maximizing the fare revenues that we collect along the way as a means of promoting financial sustainability. The adjustments we're proposing to make for next year, and then a methodology we're proposing for the final year of the program, are really intended to keep those changes small and to make those adjustments now, so down the road we don't have to make larger adjustments that are potentially impactful or alienating to our ridership. So the board report summarizes the specific specific changes we want to make on each route, which range from 1.5% increase for FY27 to 6% by route. The report gives the basis for those changes for each route, and based on some feedback that we heard, namely the public comment we got, we will be providing additional information supporting the basis for those individual route-specific changes as part of our public outreach process, and we'll also be bringing that information back to you in April when you consider approval of the potential proposal. So pending your approval, we'll go forward with public outreach this month. And then we'll make any changes based on what we hear from the public, as well as any direction that we get from you today in terms of the final proposal we bring back in April. Pending your approval of that proposal, the fares would become effective July 1 of this year for FY 2027. I'm happy to field any questions or discussion that you have about the item.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the initiative in the report. So a couple of thoughts and questions, and reflect a little bit on the note that we got from the member of the public, Ms. Campbell. So first, I would say there's some logic to us increasing the fares a little bit because of the nature of cost increases that are happening that we know about, for one. And number two, we're aware that there's a, I don't want to use the trite expression fiscal cliff coming, but we have some financial challenges in the future. So anything we do now to bring in additional revenue, if we can, helps offset future shortfalls in revenue that we'll experience. So I see the logic in that. The argument that our customer rider makes is that it is two arguments which I think have caused me to ask the question. One is, are we raising them enough to actually stay in alignment with other agencies? Because I think some of the other agencies are actually raising them more than we're proposing. And I was an advocate for lowering the fares and keeping them low. And I agree with you. It's been a incentive for increased ridership. But it does seem, we did make changes in the fare structure. At a certain point, we decided to raise the fares and to do so in alignment with other systems. So it doesn't seem like we're necessarily doing that here. I'd be interested in your comment. The bigger question, I think, is the issue around simplicity. And so this is harder to explain to folks than just raising the fares X percent. Saying, well, we've got this increase in cost, and so we're going to raise it X. But to say that we're going to raise it like half of X in this place and 2/3 of X there, but 1.7X in this one, and that's based on a number of variables and factors. And it may, I think it's good, I think it's good, and obviously the result of analysis that's being done, but it is, I think it is confusing to explain it to folks, like, why did you do that? So there is something to be said for simplicity. I guess the Navy has an expression called KISS, and it says, keep it simple something. I won't use the last word because I wouldn't want that to apply to you. But basically, there is a value to simplicity. So can you just comment on those things?
Absolutely. I appreciate the comments, and also I thought the written comment we got was very thoughtful and well considered as well. Maybe I'll start with the second point first, the issue of simplicity. We would love to be able to accomplish our goal in a simpler manner. And the ideal in terms of doing what we're trying to do in terms of staying competitive with other regional transit fares would be to have a regional fare policy. And this is something that organizations such as Seamless Bay Area, which we were the first agency to actually adopt their principles, they've advocated for better regional integration and specifically a regional fare structure so that we wouldn't have to go through these gymnastics and acrobatics to accomplish that goal that we have, which I think makes good business sense, of aligning our fares with the regional operators. And so I will acknowledge that we are sacrificing some simplicity and, as the commenter noted, a degree of predictability to be able to kind of adhere to what we're trying to do from a business standpoint. Regarding the first point in terms of raising enough, I think this is where the discussion would benefit from us providing some further background. And there is some background in the written report. It varies route by route. For instance, two examples. One where we are able to raise enough to create alignment is with the Oakland Alameda services. When we initially began the fare program, our services were actually slightly more expensive than BART. BART's had higher increases over the past 3 years than we've had at 3%. And as of now, if we go forward with the 3% fare, our fare will be lower than BART. And so, again, trying to walk this line of taking pricing out of the decision to use the ferries and maximizing the potential fare revenues we get. We want to stay as closely adhered to the primary alternate form of transit in that corridor as possible, and that's the BART fare. And so if we make up that extra 1.5% now, we don't have to do that in the future. And if we continue to defer and allow that gap to materialize, then we're at a potential point where we have to make a 10% increase to match the fare, and that would be potentially disruptive to our riders. So I think that is an instance where we are raising it enough. In other instances, we just don't think it's feasible to raise enough, and what we're really trying to do is to promote alignment. And an example of that would be with the Richmond fare. That's one where we're actually proposing a higher increase than the other routes at 6%. That still doesn't get to alignment with the BART fare. It moves towards it. And we thought that was kind of a prudent decision to make at this point. And so there is a level of subjectivity that goes into it. But we have a higher fare because we recognize that the other comparable fares in that corridor are quite higher than the Richmond service at present. And so, that would be an instance where we're not raising enough, but that we're not raising up by design in that instance.
So I could see a local official, just for example, in Richmond saying, well, you're raising our fare 6%, but in Vallejo you're only raising it 1.5%, and so you're favoring another area. It may not be that you think we are or that we even are, because you're trying to create a different level of alignment. But to a local official, they have to explain that to their constituents and say, why are we being treated this way? And I think Richmond also saw some reduction. I think one of the runs in Richmond got pulled out. So I wouldn't be surprised to be hearing from the city of Richmond saying, what's going on, SF Bay Ferry. So I'd be interested to hear from other members of the board what you think about this, and because once we move forward and pull a trigger on it, then that's what we do. And maybe it's the right thing to do, and I just do think it makes sense to kind of call these issues out.
I do not have a philosophical issue with charging different rates for different routes. I think it depends on the route.
Yeah, and we do charge different rates today, so it's not a standard. But the percentage that we raise it, I think, is what's going to stand out. So we just need to be prepared for that. Jessica?
No, I agree. It's both options have their pros and cons. I'm trusting staff here in your recommendation. One question I do have is the significant increase in the short hop, which is only impacting the Alameda, Auckland, right? I think it's fair to raise it to 285, but we may lose ridership. I don't know how many of the short hop riders then transfer, right? So it's a significant increase. So that's just something for us to consider. I would prefer to have some more time to think about this. But I hear, I would just say that both options have pros and cons at this point.
Okay, thank you. Others? Vice Chair?
So I would just echo what everybody else had said. I think, first of all, I just think the work of Seamless Bay Area is so important. At least when I informally talk to people about transportation, the ability to get from point A to point B, no matter what the mode is the number one overriding factor, followed by cost. And so hopefully Clipper 2 is ameliorating some of the costs, but also just trying to be sensitive to being competitive. I actually really like that we're adjusting the Vallejo. I was really hoping to hear from Pippin on that Director do on that today and see what her thoughts are. But I'm going to be curious to see what you come back to us with after you've had a chance to talk with the stakeholders, particularly the riders. I think that it is probably as much art as it is science. But as I was reading the staff report and then listening to you now, Mike, I couldn't pick 3 other goals to have than the 3 you have. And I'm sorry that means for each route you have to kind of, make a special pudding, but I do appreciate what the effort is, and I also appreciate the fact that when it's not working, you come right back to us and we adjust. So I'm not wedded to it has to be this on this date every single time, although I do understand the points the commenter made about trying to have predictability, and budget predictability for everyone right now is so critical. But I do appreciate that you're starting the process here, early enough that in whatever it is, 4 months' time, there'll be some notice. So looking forward to having you come back. Maybe there'll be public comment here when we all take a break from speaking.
And as you consider approving us to go out for public outreach on this item, we have reached out in advance to all the impacted municipal partners. So the cities in the East Bay in particular. We're going to be presenting to the WETA on March 27th. Which would be prior to the board taking up this item. So it's, again, another touch point to get into the community, see what the officials supporting the service, see what the public riding the service feel like regarding the proposals, pending your authorization for us to go out for public outreach.
And go ahead, Jessica.
Just a quick follow-up on that. So when you go out and talk to the counties or the agencies, you're showing the full fare change, not just what would happen in their community?
Yeah, we would assume the context is important, how they're being treated.
The difference between 1.5% and a 6% increase.
I think, and to the commenter's point as well, we're going to try to be fully transparent. And, if there's additional information that would be relevant or helpful, we'll make sure we bring that forward.
That's an important SF Bay Ferry value. And I think over the years, the public, and represented by local institutions has gained a lot of confidence in the organization. So I just don't want to see anything that could in any way hamper that. But I think I don't want to say the increases are nominal, because their increases are increases, and it's a sensitive time when it comes to cost that people experience. But they are not huge percentage increases, and so I think if Director Dew were here, she'd probably express her appreciation that the service in Vallejo, which is the most expensive service that we have, is being treated this way, which I appreciate. I think that's we should try to keep that as low as we can. So I'm not hearing from other members of the board great concern about the approach. So I'm fine here with pending public comment, seeing what the public has to say about it. But I just want to make sure that the public understands not just what we're doing, but the why of it, which is really important. Melanie, do we have members of the public signed up to speak on this item?
Nobody has signed up to speak.
Would anyone like to speak on item number 10? Excuse me, it's item number 9. We haven't gotten to 10 yet. Okay, hearing none, we need a motion, and there's an action item, so we'll take a motion on it.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second. Call the roll, please.
Chair Wonderman.
Yes.
Yes.
Director Alba.
Yes.
And Director Henneberry.
Yes.
The item passes.
Great. Thanks for the work on this. Item number 10, approved contract award to the Working Waterfront Coalition for provision of workforce development training.
Chair Wonderman, members of the board, the item before you right now, we're really pleased to bring to you. It's been a long time coming. as part of the very successful EPA grant award through the Clean Ports program that is going to help us achieve Mission Bay, one of our 400 passenger boats, as well as downtown electrification. We included in that application $2 million for workforce development, and we do think that was a big part of why we were successful, because it was an important element of that grant source at the time. And we're also very pleased that this grant is still in place despite the change in administration, because of the importance of Marines and port safety and all of the other goals of the program. And I did notice that Sal is here, so he could speak to Lauren is on vacation this week, but I'm sure he'd be happy to speak to the particulars of their program that you guys are familiar with and have received presentations on. But basically it is what you have heard in the past and more. There will be the 10 weeks of training for trainees in marine trains, 2 weeks in water transportation skills for deckhands and similar trainees. And we're very excited about the idea that they're going to be working with Cal Poly Maritime and our staff to develop customized training for entry-level students to obtain skills needed for electric vessels, including safety and repairing electrical equipment. This training module will also be available to current staff, so we are looking forward to getting some blue and gold staff trained as a result of this work. And so the idea is that this $2 million will be provided to the Working Waterfront Coalition for over the next 3 years, and we're just really looking forward to this partnership.
And as promised, the creation of the Working Waterfront Coalition, which I think has been just a bright light in the region, was at least in part created as the result of the ever-complaining chair who raises the issue about shipbuilding, and which can only occur if we have a workforce that's capable of doing this work, which we had at one time in this region in large numbers and sacrificed, and which we hope will come back. And Sal, I'm going to be attending the graduation of the 5th cohort coming up next Friday at 5 o'clock on Mare Island. So you'll probably touch on that, but go ahead, please.
Chair Winderman, Director Sal Baca, Director Working Waterfront Coalition. And in fact, this whole idea of developing career pathways in the maritime industry started right here with this board, with this staff, over 2 years ago. We made a presentation of the plan that was in place. With your support, your encouragement, the program has really taken off significantly. The approval of this contract in partnership with SF Ferry and Port of San Francisco allows us to continue and to expand the programming. Now moving forward with a strong emphasis on sustainability in the maritime industry that directly supports your vision for zero-emission vessels. In order to be successful and effective to do that, we need a workforce that is trained on new technology. The new training module that we're developing, it's under the direction of Mr. Charlie Walter, that a number of you know Mr. Walter, I believe he's online, is developing and will be delivering the training. It's intended for 3 populations. First of all, new entrants into the workforce. Those individuals that are coming through our short-term training program, and we'll be connecting with the industry pretty soon. Secondly, for those individuals that are already in the industry, blue and gold employees, bay ship and yacht employees that need the training, need the preparation in zero technology. And then lastly, also thanks to our supporter, Mr. Patrick Murphy with Blue and Gold, and also Marina Sachetano from IBU, to train their personnel that operate these ferries. They need to understand the new technology, and it's totally different to operate a diesel vessel now. It's new processes for operating and for responding to potential emergencies. So with your support, the program continues to grow, and now we can entertain and support efforts about bringing a regional shipbuilding and a shipyard here to the Bay Area. Just next week, we're going to be meeting with Cal Poly Maritime and the governor's office to discuss what a regional strategy needs to look like in order to be successful in supporting the maritime industry, but also attracting a much-needed shipbuilder. As you've heard earlier in your presentation, those vessels that are, the ferries that are being built in Washington, why not the Bay Area? We just need to lay the groundwork and the infrastructure to make that happen. The approval of this grant helps us move forward with those efforts. So thank you in advance for your support.
Thank you for your leadership. And I have one question that, earlier we heard about the experience of building and then operating a zero-emission vessel. So you're on your fifth group. You've been doing this for a while. What have you learned about recruiting and training and placing individuals, since now you've been doing it for a while?
Yes, we'll be graduating our fifth cohort next Friday, and we have State Treasurer Fiona Ma will be our keynote speaker, who will be introduced by Assemblymember Lori Wilson, and followed up by Chairman Wonderman in the presentation. We are drawing individuals from the entire region that are going through the training program. What's really key is we're providing them with entry-level skills. We need to enrich and enhance the content to make sure that those individuals are better prepared to engage with industry employers. That is probably the biggest piece that we need to make sure it's in place. It's the expansion and the growth and the enrichment of the content that takes place during those 10 weeks. And certainly the partnership, the ever-growing partnership with Cal Poly Maritime will make sure that we continue to move along and be able to be a valuable resource to the industry.
I'll just say, my move from the Bay Area Council, where we're advocating for this, to California Forever, where we intend to build a world-class shipyard that and partner with the other facilities around the region, of which there are a number, which could move into this work if there was the substantial demand, which we think there is. Yes. I think there's really a lot of opportunity has come our way. Yes. And we just have to really all work together and push together hard. And speaking of difficult things, Bobby Winston tells me I only have 2 minutes to speak on Friday night, and I committed to that, but that's not going to be easy. But I said I would do it, and so I'll try to do it. And I want to make sure we properly represent SF Bay Ferry and California Forever, which is the sponsor who's paying for the event. And that I hit all the points. So, a 2-minute speech for me can be about 20, I told Bobby, but I would try to cut it. I would try to stay within that. Other members of the board, questions or comments? Go ahead,
I'd just
please.
like to comment that the Working Waterfront Coalition does fantastic work. Bobby Winston does a hell of a job, all you guys do. And I'm looking forward to supporting the motion when it comes up.
Thank you.
No questions from me, just accolades. Thank you so much for all you're doing.
Thank you.
You're here.
Yeah. And there'll be a number of elected officials at the event who've been really supportive, including the Transportation Chair. I believe Lori Wilson plans to attend, and she's been a real big supporter of this. And it's an opportunity to bring together the regional family around this issue. And I think there's an opportunity. It's great to see the governor's office take such a great interest. I talked to the governor about this a couple of years ago and talked about the opportunity to build ships in the Bay Area. And he's very tall, and he looked down at me, and he gave me this kind of blank stare, I thought. But he's not doing that anymore. His office is really engaged. And we had a meeting a few weeks ago out on Mare Island, in which there were, I think, 3 secretary level folks, and it was a 2-day conference, and having Cal Poly take over Cal Maritime, and the chancellor, Jeffrey Armstrong of Cal Poly, who's been there for 15 years, and USA Today, I believe, rates Cal Poly as the #1 institution in the country. It's really changed the nature of the game, I think. So the opportunity is really with us now, and the combination of the Navy's interest in building vessels. They called it maritime statecraft, but that is it's one of the few but strong bipartisan movements taking place in our nation's capital, is to rebuild ships in America again, and that's naval ships, but there's also commercial ships. And I think just as importantly is the clean vessels, zero emission vessels that we're leading, and we could become not just my greatest hope would be that in the future years we would not only be building our own future vessels for this agency, but we'd be building them for the country.
Yes.
Because we have some leverage, because we've got some funds to skin in the game, as well as pushing to build a workforce and sort of bring the components of this together. Representative Garamendi is the co-author of the Ships Act. It's kind of mostly what he talked about very passionately. And a couple of weeks ago, President Trump introduced an executive order, or redefined an executive order, speaking to how this can work. So if they can figure this out in Washington, how to go about doing this, it's a substantial amount of funds potentially behind this for the future. A lot of it is already appropriated. We have some convincing to do to the Navy and related agencies in defense that California is the right place to invest, and a big part of that is demonstrating that we have the workforce here that's ready, able, and can grow to meet this demand. So you have a big job ahead of you, and I'm so glad that this agency can get behind it. I'm really proud of it.
Thanks for your support.
Thank you. Okay, with that, Melanie, do we have? Did you want any other speakers? Marina, would you like to speak? Yep.
Marina, thank you.
Marina Secretano, Inland Boatmen's Union. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to say what a great job this, is being done by the Working Waterfront Coalition, and Sal in particular is doing amazing work. And I totally support this. I'm excited about it. And just so you know, we're working on a project with the Blue and Gold Fleet and Working Waterfront Coalition to expand our training of our hiring hall first, and to very high level senior deckhand training that we've not seen before. And then once we finish our 36 casuals in our hiring hall, we're going to go to the Blue and Gold Fleet and then spread around the bay. And we have such great partnership. And I just want to call your attention to that, because it's a shortage of mariners. So the efforts that we're making in this regard is really going to help the industry with the most amazing crew members there can be. Thanks.
Thank you. Our former board member, the original board member. Are there other members of the public who are signed up to speak on the item?
Nobody else has signed up to speak.
Would anyone else like to make comments on item number 10? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the award to the Working Waterfront Coalition.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. With that, let's take the roll.
Chair Wonderman.
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer.
Yes.
Director Alba.
Yes.
And Director Hannaberry.
Yes.
The item passes.
Okay, thank you and congratulations, and go get them. And make sure we're aware that folks would like to come next Friday night to the event. If they could do it.
Yeah, I'll make sure we'll send out the invitation for those that are going to join us. Friday, 5 o'clock.
Thank you. We look forward to it. Appointment of Chief Financial Officer of the San Francisco Bay Area Water Emergency Transportation Authority, also known as San Francisco Bay Ferry. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, big deal. So I'm just proud to make the recommendation that the board appoint Lauren Gradia as San Francisco Bay Ferry's next CFO. We went through an extensive and thoughtful process as soon as our current CFO, Erin McGrath, let us know that she would be leaving the position, and it couldn't have gone better. We ended up with a lot of qualified candidates with the exact qualifications that we're looking for local experience, transit experience, working on all of the very complex grant management and budgeting issues that we need to handle on a day-to-day basis. And Lauren really rose to the top. So we were very excited to see her interested in this role and just ready to make this recommendation wholeheartedly. She's highly qualified, highly recommended by a lot of people that have worked with her. She's a known quantity in the Bay Area. You'll notice one of the qualifications is that she has a master's degree in transportation engineering. So other duties as assigned may extend across departments here at SF Bay Ferry soon. We were really fortunate when Erin came our way, and her service has just been fantastic here. We don't need to say goodbye to Erin just yet. We've arranged for the requisite amount of overlap here, so this is not her last board meeting in general, and so we will save that for later. But in the meantime, just excited to hopefully welcome Lauren to the team. She is here with us today. If the board has any questions for her, she's happy to address those.
Well, first of all, thank you, and thank you for the doing the hard work of finding someone. It's not an easy job, never an easy job to fill, and I think her experience and kind of work that she's done, speak loudly to her capabilities. And Erin, nobody approved your leaving or retiring or anything like that, but sometimes there comes that moment. So appreciate all the work that you've done, and I realize you'll still be with us. And yeah, I think now we're gonna have two Laurens, so that's gonna create a little bit of, Lauren G's is pointed out. So we talk about simplicity. That's very simple. So we just keep hiring people named Lauren G, and we're good. So. Would love to have you come up and say a couple of words. Defend yourself.
Defend yourself. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm really very impressed with SF Bay Ferry's services and the ambitious capital projects that you guys are working on. And I really look forward to working with the staff and your board and being part of the future. So.
Thanks. Well, it's going to be your staff and your board and your projects, and what we it's a fun place to work. I think you're joining a great team, and the board is very supportive of this work. And but it's challenging work. I think there's a lot ahead of us. So welcome, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Of course, I can't congratulate yet because we haven't really done anything. So with that, other members of the board, comments, questions?
I just want to say congratulations, Erin. Good luck in retirement. And Lauren, there's a difference between buses and ferries, so get used to it. All right, welcome aboard.
Great, go ahead.
Well, first and foremost, I think, Seamus, you said that this is not Erin's last meeting, so we'll have a chance to give Erin all the accolades she deserves. But I couldn't let this moment pass without just saying to you, Erin, what a tremendous job you have done. And I think Seamus said that we were really fortunate to get you, which is probably the understatement of the century. We were magically blessed and smiled upon when you came on board. And I remember hearing that you were going to come on board and just feeling a tremendous amount of gratitude and relief. And even then, I don't think I understood the depth with which you would completely up-level the finance portion of this agency. And I remember we had conversations just in general about the agency needing to grow from being kind of a startup into a mature organization, and that could not have happened without your level of sophistication and knowledge, but so importantly, your ability to be so strategic and to look not just at what's in front of you, which was always somewhat of a crisis, but also to look down the road. And where we are today is in large part due to you. The entirety of the staff has a part in that, but you are at the crux of it, because without the money, nothing happens. And your ability to understand where all this money comes from and how to place it, how to make sure that we have reserves, and all of those other things is just incredible. And so thank you. Hopefully I'll remember I said all that when it is your last board day and be able to just repeat that. But you've just given me a tremendous amount of confidence and security in where we are, and also education. So I can't thank you enough. Thank you for everything, and thank you to your family and friends for allowing you the space and probably too many personal hours to do all this work. Lauren, welcome aboard. You are coming into an agency that's in, thanks to Erin's work, in tremendous great shape, but has a tremendous capital plan and vision and growth ahead of it. And it's, as you already know, it's never dull, given the fact that all the items we discussed today. So I hope that Erin will show you where she keeps her magic wand, and how to use it, and what the proper sequence of spells is, so that you can continue the great work that she's doing. We look forward to working with you. While it isn't our job to interview you, I would just love to hear from you, kind of, your roles to date, and not, let me try to phrase this question, not why you went from engineering to finance, because of course finance is where it's at, as we just talked about, but how has strategy played a part? Like, how has your role to date been driving the business, so to speak? Will this be a new part of your resume, or have you had that in your repertoire already?
All right. Well, currently I am the Director of Finance and Capital Programs at Marin Transit. So I have a role in both overseeing all the financials and then also our capital program. I've been at Marin Transit for 20 years. I started in Marin Transit as a transportation planner, and I moved into finance because I felt like that was where the strategy was, and that was where I wanted to be able to help the agency both advance from, we were also a startup, into a mature company or agency. And I like the strategy that comes with the financial role. Marin Transit is also transitioning, although we are buses and they're very different than boats, and I have a lot to learn on the maritime side. We are also transitioning to a zero emission fleet. We have our largest capital project to date, and there's a lot of strategy around financing that's very parallel to a lot of the things that I'm learning about with SF Bay Ferry. So I feel like I can really bring some of those skills and strategies in terms of identifying funding and balancing different capital programs and projects over a longer timeline.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that with us. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Absolutely.
Erin, looking forward to still seeing you.
And Madam Vice Chair, I would say that did sound like an interview question, but that's okay, because we have to take an action. So I think we have a right.
You haven't interviewed with me.
No, I hope. Well, I won't say what I hope. I'm getting to the later stages of my interview potential. That's okay. Other members, comments, members of the public on the item?
No one has signed up to speak.
Anyone wish to comment on the new Lauren G's rise to fame and power? And I'll just say finally, Erin, that Monique's comment about you looking ahead, notwithstanding, one of the things I never heard you do was ever look back. And sometimes when you get a new chief financial officer, they come in the job and they shake their head and they go, how do they do this kind of thing? And maybe you did that, but I never heard anything about it. From the board perspective, there were never any questions raised, about like why this or why that, and I appreciate that. You just kind of drove forward and made it work for us better, and listened to our comments about how we would prefer to have the budget presented, and and the financials and so forth. So appreciate that.
Thank you. And thanks for your kind words. I mean, I'm real proud of the work that we've all done together and being able to step into this role that turned out to be a lot harder than I anticipated, but at the same time, a lot more fun. And every week, I think I said, this makes my brain hurt, this job, but it's been a lot of fun. And as you all know, I've had some challenges, and this job actually gave me a reason to get up out of bed every morning. And in a lot of ways, it gave me a purpose that really kept me going, and so I'm really proud of what we've all done together. And I'm super happy about Lauren because she and I know each other from my days working on the SMART train, and when she applied, I was very hopeful that she would rise to the top, and I'm really thinking she can start. She's used the same accounting system we use. She's probably understands more about the projects we're doing than I do in a lot of ways, and so I think change is good at this point in time when we're facing so many challenges. I think she's going to be able to come in and bring a fresh perspective to some of the challenges that we're facing and some of the ways we need to manage going forward. And I'm as you all know, willing to hang around and help out for a while and just make sure she's got her feet under her and that we don't skip a beat in this drive towards the future.
Thanks so much. And you made us made our jobs on the board better by having you here with us. So really appreciate you. Melanie, anyone wishing to has anyone come forward wishing to comment or testify?
No one has signed up to speak.
Anyone wish to? Hearing none, let's take a motion on item number 11.
So moved.
Second?
We have motion and second. Melanie, call the roll, please.
Chair Wonderman?
Yes.
Yes.
Excuse me. Director Alba? Yes. And Director Hannah-Berry?
Yes.
Welcome, Lauren.
Okay, thank you. Item number 12, approve amendment to fiscal year 2025-26 salary schedule.
Yeah, thank you. We're not done making some changes to the finance department yet today. There's one more to come. We've identified, first of all, we a couple of years ago, we did a reorganization of this agency. It's worked out amazingly well. We've had to make very little changes to that reorg plan over the course of that time. We did let the board know that we might need to, if we do identify any gaps, come back and request additional changes, additional resources, and this is certainly one that we've identified that would be instrumental towards some of our key priorities moving forward. We're recommending that the board amend the salary schedule to add a senior director of financial strategy. The finance department does a tremendous job with all of their responsibilities. One emerging responsibility that's summarized by the goals of this position in the staff report is that the long-term strategy and very creative thinking around financial sustainability in particular, but financial analysis and budget strategy is something that will require an additional position with a dedicated scope geared towards these things. Chair Wonderman, I think you've mentioned not as much as shipbuilding, but almost as much the need to pursue a go-it-alone strategy and think about opportunities to do that and options for doing that. And there are many. They're varied, they're complicated, they require various stages of approval, and we need to get started on that now. We know from our fiscal cliff analysis on both the capital and the operating side that if we wait any longer, we will be too late. We don't want to be chasing these problems. We don't know what will happen with the Connect Bay Area revenue measure, and so there are a lot of variables and a lot of things up in the air right now that we need to consider. And so this position, one of the primary responsibilities will be to help us assess those opportunities and move forward, present the board with some defined options for strategy moving forward, and then implement those strategies. And it will be incredibly important that we do that in a thoughtful way. So this role, I'm excited to recommend this role to help us do that, and looking for the board's approval of this, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. In hockey, they say you need to skate to where the puck's going, where you think the puck is going to be. And I could see a few years down the road, we could find ourselves in the position where we're sort of out there in an isolated way, facing facing a fiscal wall that could really hamper us achieving our mission. So I think it's wise to to be able to invest the extra effort in trying to figure out what our options look like. They're not as simple as they used to be, because I think we've exhausted, at least for a while, the ability. I don't know that we want to raise tolls in the Bay Area a whole lot, and we're heavily dependent on toll revenue. So if it isn't going to be toll revenue, what is it going to be? And with tolls, we sort of fit the niche for the use of toll revenues really well. But when it comes to other kinds of revenues, maybe not so much compared to heavy, fixed rail and light rail and rapid bus and other forms of transit. So, I think I hope we don't have to have a go it alone strategy. My hope would be we don't have to do that. But I think we need to be thinking about what happens if we do, and we don't want to come up at the last second and go, oops, we don't have a plan or approach for that. So I think this is a worthwhile move. Other members of the board comment on item 12? If not, Melanie, do we have folks from the public signed up on this?
Nobody has signed up to speak.
Any member of the public wish to speak on item 12? If not, I'll take a motion on 12.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion. Sorry, call the roll, please, Melanie.
Chair Wunderman.
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer.
Yes. Yes.
And Director Henneberry.
Yes.
The item passes.
Thank you. Item passes. Item number 13, approval of SF Bay Ferry's 2026 legislative program.
Thanks, Chair Wunderman. Our Government and Regulatory Affairs Specialist, Terrence Candell, is here and can provide some context on this item if it's desired. The staff report does outline the key changes from the previous legislative program. There aren't many. They focus on one of the principal items that we've discussed, which is the passage of SB 79 and the cleanup language associated with that, which I know is very important to our agency moving forward. We're happy to just take a motion on this if the board, in the interest of time, if the board is interested in that. Otherwise, Terrence can walk through the details of these changes if that's desired.
Yeah, I read the report. It's very, I found it to be very thorough and very well thought out. And I don't if other members of the board would like a presentation. Hearing none. Thanks, Terrence, for your willingness to come up and do that. But I think we're okay. It's a pretty broad assessment of the opportunities that we have through legislation, and I think it also recognizes the potential that we could come up in a situation that's unanticipated and need to do something that's not in the report. And I'm glad that it accounts for that contingency. So with that, I'll ask Melanie if there's anyone who signed up to comment on 13.
Nobody has signed up to comment on 13.
Anyone who's here or listening wish to comment on item 13, legislative strategy? If not, we'll take a motion.
I think the last two.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Call roll, please.
Chair Wunderman.
Keeps going off. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Director Alba.
Yes.
Director Henneberry.
Yes.
The item passes.
We have a very agreeable board. Item number 14, last item on the agenda is public comments for non-agenda items. Has anyone signed up, Melanie, to speak on non-agenda items?
We currently have two speakers. Marina Secatano is.
Please come on up to the podium.
Thank you. Marina Secatano, Inland Boatmen's Union. Before I start my comments, I just want to make one point struggling with whether I should say anything. But, you know, I was at the shipyard in Anacortes when the Del Norte was there as the sister ship to the Intintoli. And Golden Gate runs that. And, you know, those boats are in the shipyard and they're finding problems, you know. So I just think that when we have 28-year-old boats, you're going to find some problems. I mean, anyway. But so my comments are totally different. Thank you, Chair Wonderman and directors. At the November meeting, the board directed the executive director to meet with labor prior to issuing the RFP and to work collaboratively with us to ensure labor protections were addressed. Unfortunately, we do not believe that the directive was meaningfully carried out, nor do we believe the current proposal adequately protects the existing workforce. From its inception, WETA has grown into a world-class ferry system. That success would not have been possible without the strong partnership of the IBU and the MMP, whose members have worked tirelessly to secure funding and approvals for the agency's projects both in the communities it serves and in the legislature. It's unthinkable that the agency would not have our backs as we have had theirs. According to WETA's own report, the service received 98% approval rating in 2025, among the highest of any transportation system in the nation. As Chair Wonderman noted, this reflects the excellent work of the captains and the crew and a team of dedicated professionals. One of our primary concerns is the language in the RFP regarding the staffing approach under 24D scope of services. The RFP allows a proposer that has not signed the workforce retention certificate to instead explain how they would hire and train workers to meet the WETA standard. This creates a significant loophole. It allows a proposer to compete for and potentially be awarded the contract without committing to retain the existing workforce. These crews are highly trained professionals who operate safely and reliable every day, and their experience is essential to maintaining the level of service that the public expects. We urge the board to ensure the RFP clearly requires workforce retention and provides real protections for the existing crews. We also have concerns regarding provisions that affect working conditions and operational safety. First, the RFP requires deckhands to hold STC certification, even though on small passenger vessels operating in domestic service are not required to hold those credentials. This requirement appears unnecessary, costly, and may create barriers without improving safety outcomes. Second, while we understand the desire to expedite passenger loading using 2 ramps, expecting 3 deckhands to safely manage that operation is unrealistic. Deckhands are responsible for ticketing, monitoring clipper machines, securing security rounds, cleaning, passenger safety every trip. Adding 2 ramp operations alongside strict on-time performance, that's the key, and penalties for that, creates an unsustainable workload. If faster boarding is a goal, the agency should consider staffing dock personnel to assist with ramp operations. Finally, maintaining relief crew at terminals is a practical operational safeguard. Standby personnel help prevent missed trips, again, a penalty for missed trips, support vessel preparation, and ensure coverage if a crew encounters an emergency. Our partnership with WTA helped create this agency, and with the express purpose of relieving private operators of the impossible task of sustaining stable ferry service on their own, while enabling the expansion of ferry transportation throughout the San Francisco Bay. We respectfully urge the board to revisit these provisions and engage in meaningful discussion and dialogue with labor. Thank you.
Thank you. If I had but known, I would have moved you up earlier in the agenda. You stayed with us the whole time, so appreciate that. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Alita Dupree, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to, there's Sly Hunter who wants to speak. I don't know if you want to take the discussion sequence or if
If it's okay with you, could we hear from Sly Hunter from MMP first, and then we'll get to you. Unless it's going to cost you to miss a vessel or. No, I'm not going to miss it. Okay, go ahead, Sly Hunter, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
A little louder, if you could.
Yeah. Sorry, it might be my computer. Thank you, Chair Wonderman and directors. Sly Hunter, regional representative for Master Mates and Pilots. We're very concerned about the compensation structure outlined in the RFP. As written, the contractor is only compensated when vessels are in revenue-generating service. If a vessel must go to the shipyard, or the captain and crew members are on the required breaks or cleaning vessels, conducting drills, security sweeps, startup shutdowns, performing engine room checks, or completing vessel logs, the contractor receives no compensation. It is deeply concerning that the staff will present, a request for proposal to the board without fully accounting for the operational realities, that the respondent must meet. The current proposal appears to overlook requirements that are mandated by law and are essential to vessel safety operations. I'm going to cut. I have a written statement, but I don't want to bore you guys. I just want you to get the gist of it. Another item of concern is the $15 million annual bond. That was something that was done over at Alcatraz with $30 million and all this shoreside work that was going to be done that Park Services had required. To date, none of it's done. And so, we're looking at what I believe is an opportunity for people to come in and fudge a proposal. We've worked hard and long to help build and fund this agency, to relieve operators of unsustainable burdens, and to ensure stable, publicly supported ferry service. It is deeply concerning. Sorry, I've been sick for a while, and my voice is going. But it's deeply concerning for the union that the way this thing is structured, we don't feel the security is in place that we need. Thank you for your time.
And thank you. Appreciate you. And now.
That was loud. Okay. Thanks again, Chair Jim Wonderman and members. Alita Dupree for the record. She and her with Team Folds did get to use the ferry about a week ago. It was the Auckland, San Francisco route. That's my usual route. Worked fine. I'm going to talk mostly about Clipper. I have Clipper 2 with the transfer benefits on a reduced fare card. And Clipper works. It worked on the ferry, as it has always. It's been working for me on all the other systems. The app and the wallet do take some time to update trips. Some trips are pending. It's probably due to data loads, and some buses may not be uploading in real time. Cell service can be spotty in places, but it's working correctly. Every transfer, every fare has been correct. I haven't lost a single cent at this. Clipper needs a good news story, but the news, and even in various public forums, such as board meetings, I'm not hearing good news stories. I'm carrying the water with that because I feel the importance of balanced reporting. I ask nobody be discouraging in the work of Clipper. This is a program for our future, especially for people with reduced fares. I go to New York and I use the Omni system with open payments for reduced fare. I ride the subway 4 to 6 times a day. It works. Does it have issues at times? Yes, but they work on it. We're working on it here. So I want to let you know that I enjoy the ferry. I hope we'll get those new electric boats here. I hope we can build boats here and invest in our beloved Bay Area. Keep the money here and grow the jobs of all the good people who helped me to enjoy the SF Bay Ferry. Thank you.
Thank you for your dedication to public transit, and Marina and Slide, thank you for your dedication to the workers. We share both. With that, thank you, Aaron, thank you. Though you won't be leaving. Thank all of you. Really appreciate this board, this team is really very special. And, you know, we're even more reliable than the New York City subway system. So they may have some stuff over us, but, you know, I think they take our numbers any day of the week. So, Seamus, you should be proud of your team. I know you are. With that, this meeting is hereby adjourned. Yeah, longer than average. It was 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty much.